Welcome and calling the March 27th, 2025 Planning Board to order. Secretary is not here, so I'll call a roll. Chair LaFaro is here. Vice Chair Finity.
Present.
Gloria Burke, Secretary, is absent. George Mutu.
Present.
Tom Neely.
Present.
Kate Fulham.
Present.
David Glazer.
Present.
We have a quorum. Please join us for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I don't believe there are any minutes to approve. So we will go into a work session, right, yes. So we'll go out of the planning session into a work session. Okay. And your applicants.
Here.
Hello.
To the front, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yep, please, yep.
Okay, so as you can see, we are looking at Noyak, 4098 Noyak Road. This is in the R40 district. We are here before you to consider a covenant amendment, several covenant amendments, as it turns out. And that's because of the large history of subdivision on these four lots. You'll see in the very center there, that's the open space. But if you could make a square or a rectangle, there were four original lots. Those were all one lot at the very beginning. And so in 1982, two lots were created. That would be 4220, which would be the upper right-hand corner.
The big
And then,
lot.
no, the little
Little
guy up there.
on the
Can someone can you, Brenna, please help them?
Oh, that little out.
Yeah, it's an off parcel.
lot up here.
So
Yeah,
That.
the center being the open space, and then if you drew a rectangle, that one. So that was created, and then the other lot was the two you see on the left and the open space. At which point 9158 was recorded. Point number two, that no further subdivision or modification would take place on parcel number two, being that to the west, the big lot and the two others. 1984, three parcel subdivision. This created 4098. This parcel in question, 4108.
Where is that? Can you indicate
It's
that?
highlighted.
Highlighted,
Okay.
yes. The one in front of that with the road frontage, 4108, and the open space. Again, in this case, 9581. Point number two, no further modification or subdivision. Point number three, that parcel 3, 4098, the back, yes, would have a 20-foot wide strip of land which would provide access. The next step was in 2002, the open space in the middle was put under a conservation easement, which is under the ownership of Mr. Kirschenwald.
I'm one of the trustees with all my four siblings.
Which further placed other restrictions and covenants on that parcel and any development that could take place. So we are here today to consider amending these numerous the need. We would like to look into further subdividing 4098,
Which is?
which is the back parcel lower. Yep, that one
That
right
one?
there.
Further subdividing that?
Yes, that's correct. Now, the site plan that was given to planning shows two lots would be created. It would be somewhat divided in half. It has kind of because of the wetlands, it would have to kind of follow that wetland line. I did include it in the packet. I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to.
He's got a map.
Yeah, I have.
Can you blow that section up, Anthony, at all?
His
So
property?
it's that property, yeah.
At any rate,
House on it?
so this is one of the interesting points is the building at the northern side, that's an accessory apartment. It was granted. Sorry, let me check my note. 89. So the accessory was in 6/2010. It's dubbed an accessory apartment, workshop, second floor home office, and a bedroom. It required variances for height and size, negligible, 23 feet where 20 is required, and I can't recall the size. It was a negligible difference. At any rate, so you do have an accessory apartment and a principal dwelling in the back. With this proposed covenant amendment, it would allow for them to divide that lot in, let's just say two. They're not equal, but one is 55,000 square feet, 351, which would be subject to a yield loss because of the wetlands in front of it. And then you would have a 43,613 foot lot in the back. That would house the principal unit. There would be some non-conformance in the 10-foot flag strip, so that would require a variance. And because of the location of this, if this became a principal dwelling, it would violate the dimensional regulations in that zone. So there's quite a few.
Is there sufficient setback from those wetlands?
So the wetlands are another question. On this, you'll see that the wetlands are flagged as a 2008.
Oh, they have to be reflagged, yeah.
It doesn't violate the 100, 125, or 150 foot buffers.
But they have to be reflagged, because 2008, was it 3 years?
It's 3 years, yes.
3 years.
So it was. I will let them speak to that. I think Caleb has some. Anyway, is there any more questions maybe I can answer? I'd like them to.
Well, why are we here?
Well, because of all the different covenants, because of there's so many elements going on. I wasn't sure.
But the focus is to
Covenant
subdivide
amendments.
that lot.
Well,
Yeah.
so Caleb would like to know: is it possible to even subdivide? Would you even permit the covenant amendments?
The covenant read no further subdivision or no further subdivision without.
Without your approval.
No,
That's
it
it.
says no further subdivision.
It says no further subdivision,
Period.
Modification or subdivision? That's right.
period.
Without their approval.
Let's. Well, we have several. It's stated twice. So
There's only one written recorded
One
covenant.
covenant,
We're gonna read it
Yep.
now.
okay. That at no time that hereafter shall there be any further subdivision or modification to parcels 2 and 3, this one being 3, and as herein described in Schedule B, and as approved by the Planning Board of the Town of Southampton.
So there's no
No
modification.
further.
But later on, it says.
But there's
in there-
another version.
There's another version that says without a majority of opinion of you guys.
Has council seen these easements?
Which one was recorded? Which version was?
They're both recorded.
They're both recorded.
I believe so, because
Well,
I,
council hasn't seen them, so this is important that we have
Yeah.
council see them. May I have your names for the
I'm
record?
Caleb, C-A-L-E-B, Caleb. It's my wife Anna.
I can give it
And
to
your
him.
last name?
Kercheval, Kercheval,
Like the ski area.
huh? Like
Courchevel.
Courchevel.
And I'm Anna
Anna.
Gershevall. And nice to see you, Jackie. I know you from the film world with
Yes,
Genevieve
you look-
at the
yes,
cinema.
you look familiar.
So,
Typically,
So number one, there's an issue in the two languages in the two easements, which is a legal issue. Number two is, do you have the square footage to subdivide this, to put what was an accessory structure, that would be the house?
yes, it's
Right, and
it's
the third is access.
So, let me know if you shall
Go ahead.
address it.
Yep.
Okay. So, there's a lot of covenants on it, but not a lot that are pertaining to us. The main parcel, it was a big parcel with a pond there and everything. That's one that I grew up on, I skated on, and as a little kid, I enjoyed that parcel, and my folks decided to preserve it. And so we love the fact that we preserved it. Now I have kids, 16 and 14, and they grew up skating on my 2.2 acres and stuff like that. So we love this big parcel. We want to preserve it just as much as we've always done. But the covenants about the big parcel, at that time, it could have been, we did a minor subdivision when my folks bought it. We could have divided it up into other smaller parcels, but we didn't want to. And so whatever was put in place at that time was put in place because we could have also subdivided the big parcel, but we just went with a minor subdivision.
So was there a conservation easement on
Yeah,
that
so
large
in,
parcel?
Yeah.
in, I forget what year.
Yeah, so in
2002.
2002, an open space conservation easement was put on that parcel.
Do we have a copy of that?
We have a copy of it, and it's unclear if it was actually the grantor was paid $1 million.
Yes. So
Yes.
basically, if you look, Mike, move your mouse over this way a little bit. Right there, they carved out 2-point-something acres. And they put my mom's property and my stepfather's property right there.
That's that.
Right about where that, no, move over, that right there. There's a house there. And they carved out 2 acres and they preserved everything else, saying you can't touch it from here on
Yes.
after.
Right.
Which we're thrilled with. It's
Sure.
a beautiful property. And at that time, they froze it. There's a little tree farm that they could still do, but we don't do tree farming. And I actually, when they bought this property, I always wanted this parcel that I have now. But my allowance wasn't big enough and they sold it. And then like 10, 15 years later, I bought it back from the person that we sold it to.
You're talking about the lot?
The lot
Yeah,
that
the
I'm
one
on,
you-
that's in discussion.
Right.
And then when I had kids, 16-something years ago, I put up a house on that lot. And at that time, that was back in, I think, 89, 98, I forget. And later on, I did the accessory apartment because my in-laws come over, and my wife's Romanian, and when they come over. They spend like 6 months at a time. So we built an accessory apartment for them.
They stay for a little bit.
And so, we've grown up on it. And just a little background, my mom's 90. We're faced with the possibility of having to sell when she passes away soon. Not soon. When she passes away. We're going to have to sell that. And I have a brother in Seattle. I've got a brother in Georgia. I've got a brother in Indiana. We're not going to be able to keep it.
You're talking about the
The
2.5 acre
big,
parcel?
the 20 acres.
The large one,
The big parcel.
the big one,
Which that's in-
which is his dad.
2 acres
small.
for you, that your mom is living.
She's living on 2, but she owns it. She just can't do anything to it. So we're going to have to sell it because nobody in the family can buy out all the other siblings. And that's what started this process for us because we feel bad we're going to lose this parcel and I can't buy it because I'd have to buy out all my siblings. And we started thinking about our property. And I'm 62. I've got a kid 16 and 15, coming up on 15. And I want them to be able to have one of each, but it's not zoned that way. I've got a single family and an accessory apartment. So the idea that, like, if I go, one of them would have to force the other one to sell. Maybe one wants to live in California. Maybe one. So we're just.
So you want to subdivide this?
I want to.
For the children, for the kids.
children. And quite frankly, if you look at those houses, can you blow that up a little bit?
Your houses?
Yeah, my lot. If you look at them, I don't know if you could tell which one is which one's the primary residence and which one's the accessory apartment. They're almost equal in size. So I'm not asking to have a lot that I could put up a big house. I'm asking, I've already got it, I just want to reclassify it. And on top of that, if you look at it and say I'm roughly 1 acre on each, give or take. If you move over to the left, west, if you move west, that way, every one of those lots is like a 0.2 of an acre. I'm still going to be, when I subdivide this lot, roughly an acre. There's going to be no adverse effect. I'm not going to have a bigger house than anybody else. I'm going to have the same house that they already have. So I really don't think, you see all those little postage stamps there? I'm still bigger than all of them when I subdivide to be an acre. And, I get to give myself something that many kids out here don't get a chance to stay here if they really loved it. I mean, they do love it here.
We understand, but from a planning subdivision standpoint, we have certain
Yeah.
issues and requirements, and one of the main ones is the wetlands. That's where you skated. Those have to be remapped.
I won't change anything.
Any,
I'm not.
well, someone has to come out and
Yeah.
and map them, and
Right.
whether they've expanded, contracted. We'll have different measurements, and then you have to be X number of feet away from them.
Right. Which we're not
Which-
going to change. We're not going to change the footprint where we are. So if the wetlands change, I don't think wetlands change dramatically. But I'm not. I've dealt with Marty Shea for years. He helped me get what I have now. I'm not going to go back and ask him for any more leeway.
Yeah.
Because I'm not changing that.
But just to be clear, if there's more wetland in this lot, it will deduct from the
Right.
overall square footage.
Right, but
I mean, you do
minis-
have 55,000,
Yeah.
but so maybe and the other one being 43, so maybe you put that into your calculation that there might very well be 15, I mean, that would be a stretch perhaps, 15,000 square feet. That would take you down, we can't go beneath 40.
I'm willing to flag it if you think that.
Okay, so that's the first step.
Yeah,
We'll get that done. And then what about access now? There's a 10-foot.
Yes. Proposed,
The common driveway.
Common
They're-
Common driveway, which is what I have right now,
What you're
basically.
using. Okay.
well, so it is a covenant,
Right,
unfortunately.
so that's
It requires a 20,
It really is
20-foot
council, right?
one of the covenants says requires a 20-foot wide strip of land for parcel 3
They need
to
to
provide.
Yeah.
Well, this is all
I
the
guess
work
the
session.
properties and everything, we
Yeah.
do have conflicting things here. One of them says that parcel 2 could be further subdivided if the main road was built out on it. I'd have to see.
You have to review.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
Which one
tricky
was
one.
recorded? But they were both recorded at the same time?
2 years apart.
Which
Yeah.
one is the newer recording?
The one that says, the one is really just silent as to a planning board ability to change it.
So
But
what
I don't know
happened?
what happened in between.
What happened when my stepfather bought it? He bought it as is, and that lot on the far right, we didn't exercise the option for, so that first lot, that's not really part of the 3. He carved out 2 acres and put a house on the front. And the lot that I'm on was vacant, and the lady had it for a long time, and then he well, when he first bought it, and then like a year or 2 later, he did the minor subdivision to create the two
You said
acre
two,
parcel.
okay.
And that's why there's a
That's why
conflicting.
there's 2 covenants.
I do have the language on the parcel 3
A
here. in-
large lot?
No, parcel 3 is their lot, 4098, the one we've been looking at with the flag that is to be subdivided. Parcel 3 here and described in B shall have the 20-foot wide strip of land which provides access to said parcel from Noyak Road shall not be made available or be used as local access pursuant to the provisions of the Chapter 69 of Town Code of Southampton for any lot, plot, place, or parcel of land other than parcel 3, unless such access is approved by the planning board of the town of Southampton.
Right, okay.
And we're
Yeah, that's
talking about
just
the
the
same.
access.
That's just the
same
access.
driveway for both houses.
And
Yeah,
interestingly
which is-
enough,
which
they
we
have it
see
there,
all
but
the
not
time
in
here,
another.
right?
Not in the covenant. But that sort of contemplates that it would be capable of further subdivision.
Yeah,
Right?
so maybe you can give a copy of that to Christine as well, so.
Sure.
And the map. So it looks like if some of these are resolved, issues are resolved, that
Yeah.
you could,
And
Move
if you
forward.
want an extra couple feet, I
Yeah.
give you it.
right, we may need it once the wetlands are flagged, so Seth, you'll walk him through
Okay.
that process.
I know,
course.
You
well,
know it,
me and Marty were like this.
okay.
And Seth, you had mentioned the accessory had variances and
Yes.
all kinds of things.
Yes.
Part
and
of that, what would happen if this is subdivided? What
I
does
have
that
to s-
happen to?
It's my understanding with the covenants that are done by the Conservation Division and the building has a covenants as well, that apartment's not to change.
Mhm.
It has covenants that
Right.
have been
It's
recorded
recorded.
as well.
Primary residence.
It has covenants as an accessory, so it does beg the question, can it become a primary?
They're gonna make an application to convert that into a primary residence.
Correct.
Once
Which-
the
Yeah,
map.
and so like a primary residence can be taller. So when we had the accessory apartment, we had to get a
You'll have
couple
all the
feet.
rights you would have,
Yeah.
except you cannot
We don't want to. We don't want to increase the footprint.
No.
We're very happy with our house. We just.
Well, you may in the future, but you can't go closer to the, you have to meet the wetlands. You know, that's.
I said, I think the question is, forgive me, but I think what Tom was asking was, with the way the boundary lines, the property lines are drawn,
Yes.
the accessory apartment, which will become a primary residence, doesn't meet all the setbacks.
No.
So they'll have to go to ZBA for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gotta get a variance.
It's dimensional,
road frontage.
backyard.
There'll be a whole, what we do is a pre-application report, we'll give you a whole list of stuff you gotta get from the ZBA, which is a lot of, it's routine.
Yeah.
They grant it, you know, but we can't move forward until you get those variances.
Yeah.
Then you get the variances, you come back to us, we can approve your map.
Okay.
Nature of
Whatever you tell us.
Okay.
But we gotta get over that legal hurdle of coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your
I will
time.
have legal look at it, and we'll get these issues, the wetlands flagged, and the town attorney's opinion on how to deal with these
Thank
covenants.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for helping me figure that one out. Thank you.
So I'm closing the work session and going into the afternoon session. And Seth, you're right on with number 2, 80 Anchor Street, pre-app report.
Oh, well, thankfully, I will be asking for an extension on that. I will require more time to get referrals in. So I was going to extend it till the April 24th. Is that right?
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay, motion to extend it to April 24th by Dennis, second by Kate. All in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Teresa, 173 Norris.
Hello. We have discussed this at the last meeting.
This is the driveway issue. Is Carl here?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see him. I don't know if I'm going to tell him, but I obviously knew at the last meeting that he would adopt it at this meeting.
Do you want it?
Carla.
Is he on Zoom?
He's on Zoom.
Oh,
He's on
great,
Zoom.
hey, Carl.
Great.
Okay, just to go over it, this is a 2-lot subdivision in R20 zoning district. Each lot will be in excess of the required 20,000 square feet. It's on that curve on Norris Lane in Bridgehampton, and they are seeking a 2-lot subdivision for residential construction. We had reviewed this at the last meeting. We had received no new additional comments from any of the referring agencies, so there's nothing else to add to the recommendations. We are still recommending that the number of driveways be reduced for 1 entry for each lot. The installation of evergreen screening along the rear property line to screen for the cemetery. Provision of, removal of the double row of fencing along the rear property line of both parcels. Provision of a 3-inch rainfall for drainage. Highway superintendent referrals recommended drainage capture for all driveways. And compliance with Town Code 330-362 as recommended by the fire marshal, and then also the recommendation for installation of street trees every 50 feet. Those were our initial recommendations, and we are still recommending those items.
Carl, can you give us your name for the record, please?
Sure. Carl Benacasa, 860 Maxwell Avenue, Waterloo, New York, for the applicant. Apologies, my schedule didn't allow me to be there in person today. As for this, we are fine with all of the recommendations with the following caveats. As for the 50 feet along Norris Lane, when we were last there, I believe we noted that that applied to Lot 2, as Lot 1 already has maintained all of its existing street trees. And if you want to make it a condition that we maintain the existing street trees, I think that would be agreeable. And then as for the number of driveways, I've had a discussion with my clients. They understand they need to reduce the number of driveways. But we would prefer, rather than to specifically note that there'll be a single driveway entrance for each lot, just to give us some latitude to redesign, just if the recommendation could simply be to reduce the number of driveway entrances.
I think we have to
and
be
that
more.
would give us a little more flexibility in our design component. Of course, you can always, in the final process, tell us what you're going to approve and not. But it's just in the interim for design purposes, if we could just leave it to that.
I think we have to be a bit more specific.
I think it would be better to be more specific at this point in time instead of having them go through the process of showing something and it's
Right.
still not what you're happy with.
Right, it's more expedited on your behalf, Carl. What are these
There
pictures?
may be a preference for 2 on lot 1 is the problem. I would note that they currently have a building permit for 3 on lot. We're considering a common access point for lots 1 and 2.
Is that what Anthony is showing us here? What is this?
That is the road it's under construction. So they had received a permit to demolish all the existing structures, and then they received a permit to construct a new residence and various accessory structures on what will be proposed lot 1. So that construction is underway on proposed lot 1. However, they came in with a subdivision application during the construction process. So because we are looking at a subdivision, we can try and discuss the number of driveways and whether it's appropriate to have what at the time, at the current proposal, is 5 access points.
Yeah, well, we had several conversations about this.
Right.
Well, we're agreeing to reduce it. I don't think at this point we need to be specific about 1 on each lot, especially since 1 has approvals for 3 already. And since the existing access, there's multiple driveways existing on the current lot before development. When it was
Confused about what's been
agricultural.
approved.
They have a building permit.
Can we take a look at the site, at the subdivision plan?
It should be in the packet, but if it's not, it's in the electronic file. You know what, Anthony, if you just pull up the building permit for the lot, for lot 1, it's essentially a mirrored image with the exception of the basketball driveway and basketball house.
Oh, yes, they wanted a driveway to the basketball house, which I think we said maybe they can walk, Carl, to that.
You did say that, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot to redesign these, so I'm working with them to do it. I've made it clear that this is going to be a condition that they have to reconsider the access
This
points.
is still hard to read.
So
Certainly.
as you can see, there's currently a circular driveway on proposed lot 1 that's been approved and a secondary driveway to the basketball house. This exact plan, with the exception of the basketball house and the driveway, has been mirrored onto lot 2. It's just been pushed further to the east so that the house and the swimming pool fit within the building envelope. But the driveway and the footprint of the house that's shown on our subdivision plan is exactly the same
So
as
it's
proposed lot.
it's a horseshoe, which gives
It's a
it
horseshoe.
4 points on the
5,
right,
because
plus the basketball.
yes, 4 plus the basketball.
We have no problem doing 1 for lot 2. We're just asking for a little bit of flexibility on lot 1. And that's why I'm asking, again, this is still going to be subject to your final approval. But my clients would like the opportunity to perhaps present a design with multiple curb cuts on lot 2, obviously less than there are now. But
You mean lot 1, Carl?
I'm sorry, on lot 1. So lot 2, we're fine doing one driveway. We'd like some design flexibility to at least present to you more 2 access points on lot 1.
So you'd be eliminating 1 access point on lot 2, you're eliminating the basketball driveway access, that's 2 you've eliminated.
Yes.
He's not necessarily saying that he would eliminate the basketball
It'll
driveway,
reduce from 3 to 2.
but he would go from 3 to 2 is what he's saying.
Right.
But now you should discuss whether or not 3 for 2 lots is, appropriate.
The issue here with Norris Lane is that it's narrow and it curves right at that one particular point. So,
I understand that, and that's all can be part of your final.
right, yeah, that's our recommendation, Carl, so, you're perfectly welcome to come back, and because this is pre-app, and show us something, but
So you want me to to revise recommendation number 1, therefore the subdivision that needs to be revised to reduce the number of driveways entries? Would you prefer, and then we can consider a plan? Okay.
He doesn't want the exact number.
Yeah, that's fine with us.
Okay.
And then just a note on lot 2 for number 7, if you're agreeable, and then otherwise, we are happy with the report.
So all of that's gonna have to be replanted in the front where they're.
On street trees. There are some trees that have been maintained along the road. Right here, you can see them. But there's some additional street trees should probably be considered.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what you
And they
said.
should show them on the plan, the street trees on the plan, Carl. Okay?
Sure. If you want to note that in the report, that's fine.
Yep. And then this will be as amended. The resolution will say the report as amended.
Thank you all very much.
Any other comments from the board? Everybody's okay? So motion to adopt the pre-app report is amended by Kate, second by David, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Anthony, you've got 3310.
Yep.
No ad
Just in
road.
case you know anybody printed or not. So I have it up on the aerial. I think everyone's familiar with this property,
Oh, it's a Burke
the Burke property. And we had looked at something, a more intense project for this site, which was going to include both market rate and affordable.
Yeah.
Subsequent to us looking at that, and this property is in the Hamlet Commercial Zoning District. So subsequent,
Oh,
and
this is 3310.
3310, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So subsequent to us looking at a previous application, they came in with a new application to do a total of 8 rental affordable units in 2 buildings, so 4 in each, not overly massive buildings, and maintaining the existing single-family residence and associated structures. Looks like this project is maintaining the existing curb cut on Noyak Road. It's got a nice alleyway of trees and cedars in there that lead right up to the house, and they have the structures fronting along the. So this was a pre-submission conference report, just to go over some of the issues here. Certainly appreciate the all-affordable nature of the project. So in the public comments, so we had a hearing in January, and it was closed with a 30-day written comment period. And we got some comments about traffic concerns and density, screening, impacts to APOD. Site's been pre-existing clearing, open space preservation, and ensuring that lighting isn't obtrusive.
Could you push the map a little closer?
Oh, sure, thanks. Yeah. So just to go over some initial comments. One, first, the applicant is proposing this in phases because they're going to do the 4 units and then the 4 units. The issue is trying to get the flow credits with the health department. It's hard to justify, regardless of size, a sewage treatment facility for 8 affordable units. So they're going to do this in phases until they can address that issue.
So what will they do in the meantime?
They'll do 1 building with 4 affordable units in it.
But what kind of sewage?
It's going to be an IO.
Put a treatment?
No, not a treatment. It's going to be an IA
Two
system.
separate IA systems.
It'll be 2 separate IA systems
Okay.
ultimately. So the formal site plan application should include a detailed phasing plan specifying the improvements and construction details for each phase. And then what happens is at the time of the second phase, we would take some type of application in just to effectuate and implement that phase. But we're going to review it as part of the application. The Zoning Board of Appeals granted relief for this project in October to allow for a total of 8 units. There's a little thing in the special exception regulations for this zoning district that says you can't have more than 4 dwelling units on a property. And so it's a little, understanding, from a commercial standpoint, maybe that made sense, but when we're dealing with an affordable housing development, the limitation didn't make any sense. The issue is that they had a yield. The yield is okay, but the code doesn't go by the yield. It just says you could have no more than 4 dwelling units in the HC.
And that includes apartments?
Yeah.
So dwelling
It's
unit
specific to
a
the
house or an apartment?
Yeah. So the zoning board granted them the relief because we didn't want to do a subdivision to create one 4-bedroom unit and another, four. So it didn't make sense. So the zoning board granted relief here. We did the secret review as part of that. They coordinated with the board and we did that. So there'll be a change to my report when we get to that section. Number 4, this was just for clarification purposes. It's a little wonky in my statement, but it says the applicant shall clarify the future ownership of the property, ownership management of the rental units, and use of the single-family residence in the context of the multifamily use.
Right. There's no HA.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Those are the types of things we want to make sure that we understand how this, unfolds. That's all.
It's all one parcel.
It's all one parcel, yeah. So I think that'll be easy to deal with. I noted in here, as the existing residence contains a garage, pool, and pool house, that they look like they're going to remain. Maybe some fencing or landscaping to distinguish the uses might be in order for consideration. Number 5, this talks about, and this has to be revised because we did SECRA on this, and this probably comes from my previous report when it was a much bigger project when we were looking at maybe coming off Berkshire and 15 units and this, that, and the other thing. So this is not correct. What I would say is we should maintain the access as it is. It maintains the historic aesthetic of the site. The other side of it is, aside from some alternative emergency, whatever the case may be, coming out to Berkshire doesn't do you any good, only because you still have to get up to Noyak Road. So you're not getting into a controlled intersection. So I think the existing driveway and maintaining that aesthetic would be good for the...
So that language replaces paragraph.
Yeah, I'm just at number 5. I'm going to eliminate any reference to access of Berkshire and the traffic study because we don't need one. We did see
Okay, if we're
on
going
this.
to approve this, I just want to be that we have this language.
Yeah,
correct.
absolutely. So it's going to end after maintaining this access will help to preserve the historic character of the property.
Are they showing any type of emergency access in Berkshire?
They don't. Is that something you may want to consider?
I would defer to the fire marshal.
So because it's a pre-submission, we don't get the benefit of referral comments. So perhaps I'll note that in there and say at the time of formal submission, alternative emergency access off Berkshire shall be evaluated. Is that something you think?
Yeah.
Let's add that then,
It
Dennis.
allows us the latitude to do that.
Yeah. Oh, good. So then maybe I say access for Berkshire should be explored to assess if there are any benefits to providing an alternative access to the site for emergency purposes. I'll keep that in there.
So I scratched the whole thing out. So just read now what you want to remain. It appears that the applicant
It's proposing to utilize the existing driveway off of Noyak Road to provide access to the new and existing structures. Maintaining this access will help to preserve the historic character of the property with the new multifamily buildings facing the driveway. Get rid of everything else and just say access from Berkshire Road should be explored to assess if there are any benefits to providing an alternative access to the site for emergency purposes.
Sometimes they just want it shown, and sometimes they'll want a crash gate,
That's right.
Yes. Noyak is blocked.
That's
Especially
100.
got tall trees.
Yes, he's got
And the storm and the fire and that.
That's
Okay, so
fair.
that's how you're going to
Yep.
reword that.
So the existing residents and these new units will all use the same driveway.
Yes.
And that's how far from Berkshire?
It looks like we're about close to 80 feet, the driveway from Berkshire.
It's an existing driveway, so
Right, but it's gonna be used at a much higher level.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's proposed improvements going on.
I was gonna say-
There are. We got the whole drainage plan that we got to look at. So yes, that's correct. Yes. Number 6, this is in compliance with the affordable housing requirements of the state and the town. What I do say in here, so we don't run into this issue at the last minute, the applicant is encouraged to speak with the director of housing to determine the most appropriate distribution of the rental units among the different income groups, so that we know which groups are being covered at this point. So that's good. Number 7, just noted there's some green space on this property left over. And so we would encourage the applicant, because we're not required for a park on affordable projects, that they would consider some amenities such as gardens, playgrounds, bike racks, and walking paths for the residents. Again, number 8, in exploring some green, sustainable design elements. Again, I acknowledge for the applicant that this is affordable housing and cost or consideration, but we put in these statements because there are things that you can do. They could be even green infrastructure, for example. That's a lot less costly than putting in
Did they give us
structures.
elevations?
We're gonna get to that. I think I have some comments in there. Then we got some basic elevations. You know, they're showing, looks like they're showing cedar siding, actually, asphalt roof with the white window trim, sort of consistent with the existing. Again, we don't get the benefit of an ARB review or anything at this time because it's a pre-submission, so I do have notes in there that, it's going to go to the ARB.
So this is sort of a generic suggestion,
Yeah.
sustainable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 9 notes that the property's been historically cleared, and we looked at this previously with the building inspector. But we note that there are existing trees on the perimeter of the property, and that they should, it's a really nicely landscaped, so they should incorporate all that into a landscaping plan for the property. I encourage people to utilize what's there already if it's looking pretty good.
Now, Anthony, one of the things that we talked about is that you're going to have construction here. And so you need to make way for construction vehicles, and those construction vehicles can wreck the vegetation. So I think we really need to define a way in and a way out for the construction trucks.
So during the formal process, what happens is when it gets referred to the engineer will often address that issue, that we need the construction details, or if there's going to be a washout area, depending on, what it is. But we can, at a formal, require that they provide construction entrance details, all of the stormwater containment requirements,
Right.
and they identify where they're going to be clearing on the
So
property.
I just want to have you make a reference to that in 8. Because this has happened on several
There-
applications.
Limit of clearing fence is important, so they don't
Yeah,
damage
yeah.
existing vegetation.
Right.
The construction entrance, those would be engineering details, but
But yes, that the limits of clearing are defined and delineated prior to any
You
clearing.
don't want to lose the inventory of trees here, because it's just a free property.
Refer to my language I circulated a couple months ago. About clearing, about putting a project.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
we started doing.
And that could be noted on the plan.
Noted on the plans, and we'll put it in the report.
And put it in the report.
Yeah, but that absolutely should be noted on the plans for sure. Number 10, this notes that it's a special exception application. They are subject to the special exception standards. 11 is the parking calculations haven't been provided. They won't have an issue providing the parking, but they need to base it on the number of bedrooms and account for the existing residents.
So how many do they?
They don't, they don't say it on here. So it was a note that they didn't provide the parking
Well,
calculation.
that's important, right?
Yes,
What is
it's
it,
absolutely,
2
but
cars?
it's 8 units, so the question is, can they accommodate and handle the
16.
parking here? There's no question about that, so.
They can.
Oh, yeah. It depends on it's calculated based on the number of bedrooms, so I think once they hammer down the number of bedrooms, then we'll see a parking calculation. There's no issue with them
And it
accommodating it.
might be an interesting parking, Tom, because we always talk about parking lots and doing a research study on them. But you could do parking pods, you don't have to have a whole big lot. You could have 6 cars here, 6 cars there, so that it doesn't look like a parking lot.
What's the likely to be anywhere from 8 to 16 cars?
Yeah, something like that. It's not a huge amount. And they show 2 parking areas. I took a scale to it.
Good.
They
No,
show
it's
2
two
parking. They just
separate
don't provide the. But let's put a comment in there that says perhaps exploring some alternative parking layouts
Yes,
that might include parking with near the structures or something,
good.
to limit the amount of asphalt paving.
Yeah.
We could add that.
So explore alternative parking designs.
Number 12 talks about the architecture. Again, it says the materials and the general design of the buildings are keeping with the residential design. They have the cedar shingle siding, white window trim, and asphalt roof shingle. Review by the ARB and the historic board require at the time of formal application. And I do note in there that when we get to that, we'll see if there's any need, depending on what improvements are being made, to add additional street trees to the entrance if it's determined that's necessary. So we left that there. 13 just talks about the speedies and SWIP requirement if you're exceeding an acre in disturbance. 14, any visible mechanicals on the roof or ground must be screened. And 15 is compliance with the lighting standards.
Do we just notate what they are, as we usually do with the
Oh, yes, dark, yeah. My whole blurb that we have.
Dark skies.
Yeah. It usually says, no dawn to, So I'll put that in there.
Are there any other
Let's see if Tim has.
comments? Please, come. You can sit here. And give us your name for the record, Tim.
For the record, Timothy S. McCully of Council of Burke and Sullivan, 41 Meeting House Lane, Southampton. I just have a couple of comments. I just want to refresh the board's recollection on this parcel. We could have 8 or 9 lots here, but it made no sense to if we're doing affordable. So that's why we went to the zoning board and said, let us have the 8 apartments on one lot, and they agreed to that. There's a couple of comments. Number 4 on your thing, you're asking about management. We'll supply that, but it'll be managed properly.
We'll just put that, whatever it is.
Yeah, like I said, it was a wonky statement. I guess I'm trying to figure out, in other words, since it's, an affordable housing development, how does the ownership, does it go through the community, development office? So I guess that's what I was trying to get at, is what is the larger,
Okay.
To maintaining them as affordable, and that. So that's,
Okay.
I appreciate that.
And the other comment, you're going to get rid of the traffic study since we already did one?
We did, yeah, and you did it for the original project. So
Okay.
being that there were no impacts then, the project's been scaled down. I should have said that, actually, so thank you.
Okay.
Where would you put that?
Number 9.
Well, that was number 5.
That was number 5. Number 9, you're talking about limiting the vegetation.
Oh, the fertilized vegetation
to 15%. God bless you. Now, under that code section 33068, the planning board has a right to grant more, and I just don't want the board to be foreclosed. I'm not objecting to the 15%, really, but on the other hand, you wanted, in the other statement, you're asking us to do open space and gardens and whatever. So, I want the board not to be being foreclosed by this report, that I can come back. All of these concepts they have to be in a landscape plan. Now, I don't know if you have the site plan with you, Anthony, but I think there's parking shown on there.
Yeah, there is. The parking calculations weren't provided, that's all. I missed.
Okay, we have plenty of.
Yeah, no, you do. I acknowledge that, yeah.
And as far as the construction, this property is very long. There's plenty of room for staging of construction. I'm not sure what your concern was.
That they wreck the property, because it's such a beautiful property.
Okay, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well, we're
But-
trying
but
to
we-
make a project limiting fence
Okay.
area, yeah.
All right, we can provide, which we would do anyway for the building department, do a staging area, and it probably
And a
will.
way in.
It'll probably wind up where the eventual parking will go. That would be the way I would
And
think.
the driveway, the vehicles
That-
would come up the driveway.
All right. Lastly, on Berkshire, I don't know if anybody's been to the property, but there's a substantial grade going down to Berkshire from this property on that side. So I don't see how you're gonna have an access in there. We'll explore it, but I don't think it's a very.
We'll take a look. I mean, I didn't specify a location or anything like that either. So we'll just leave it open, Tim.
And then the other thing is, you had mentioned that you wanted the existing family residence to be differentiated from these. I don't know why you would want that.
I raised the question just because I said, again, just looking at it, it's going to serve and function as a single-family residence with a pool and pool house and everything. My point was, only because kids go, you know what I mean? In other words, we're having a second use on the property. Understanding Tim, I wasn't 100%. I don't necessarily want everything being separated. I just said maybe there was a way for them to distinguish it to prevent maybe kids going into a pool that they're not,
Well, I don't want. Well, you have to have a pool.
No, I get it, Tim.
Fence. However, I just don't want to be foreclosed on my ultimate landscaping plan and whatever by something in this report where
You
you
have a
come back.
vision, you have a vision of how
Ye-
it's gonna look.
well,
yeah.
I have a vision.
You have a vision.
Not my property. But what I'm saying is, I just think the report and a couple of things, it's kind of like trying to foreclose you from later looking at this plan. And I just, as long as we have an understanding that when we come with the, especially with phase two, if it ever happens, problem is the town gave us credits for the 8 apartments, and the health department rejected one of those credits because it wasn't in the 2-year ground flow in the Noyak Bay. So we're trying to work around that right now. We had enough credits
For the 4,
for the 8,
for the 8.
but one of them did not. The health department, we went for a variance from the health department and they denied it. But they said we could have the 8 apartments if we found a proper credit.
Okay, so
So,
you're working on
I
that.
think with all of the emphasis going on with affordable housing, that there may be a way to skin that cat, but that's for another day.
Right.
But I do want you to understand, we're doing 2 phases. We want to do the first building right away, and then we'll work on the second building.
Yeah, great, and it's a wonderful project. Yeah.
I don't have any issue with, the 15%, just noting that, limits on fertilized vegetation to the maximum extent possible,
Yeah,
something like that.
I don't mind your comments as long as we're not foreclosing the board from considering the final plan.
No, I mean, I don't think, as it says,
All of those areas it says, the
consider,
applicant shall consider.
I tried to word this,
I know you did, some places.
These are
Some
just-
places you
these are
did.
just heads
Tim will
up
never give me
areas.
100%.
That's it, Tim? Can we
Okay.
adopt this?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion to adopt is amended by Dennis, second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent. Anthony, you want to go into 1456 SRR?
Yeah, that's the one on Spearneck Riverhead Road. I've been dealing with the applicant on that. We're doing an extension until April 10th, 2025.
Extension to April 10?
Is that our next meeting?
April 10?
Yes.
Motion by Dennis, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent. Rabbit Hole Restaurant,
There we go.
All right.
number 6. 287 East Montauk Highway, Hampton Bay.
Yeah, that's just to the west of Edgewater Restaurant in Hampton Bays.
That's that little building.
Yeah, so Teresa's gonna, there you go. It's got an existing residence back there. It's a motel zoned. Actually, could you put the zoning on there too, Teresa?
It is MLT.
No, I meant, it is. Could you zoom out a little bit? Okay, yeah, so you could see that the property behind this property, which is also residentially improved.
You have one more?
Oh, wait a minute, you got it.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Yes.
So you could see this proposal is to utilize the existing residence, to demolish the garage, use the area for that to add an addition to the existing building for a restaurant use and associated parking.
So they've given up that whole idea of using that.
Giving it up, I can't say that. It's not part of this proposal, but they did get a determination from the building inspector that proposal would pass zoning muster, actually. So,
But they're tearing this building
but they're
down.
tearing it down, so it's not relevant for this case, but they did get an interpretation in their favor. So the board can sort of see the plan here. We got the parking. This is all based on, obviously, the existing layout of the site. So we had to do a pre-submission conference on this. So you can sort of see with the project. We did have some public comments that came in written. It's grayed out because Kristen and I both had email issues recently because we got all full. So trying to find the actual paper was difficult before this meeting. But the comments were limited to one person who submitted a written, and it was basically saying we want to, make sure that we're addressing the issues of parking in particular because people spill out onto the roadway here, all over the place, lighting, traffic impacts and stuff like that. They were clear in there that they weren't against anybody using the property for what it's allowed to do, but that these issues should be hashed out. So I will put that in.
Is parking along this road totally prohibited?
No.
It isn't. So
No.
you can If the lot is full, you can park on the street.
But that's going to lead into an item that I have on this.
Because Edgewater does that,
I
right?
believe it may be a bike lane. We'd have to check.
I'll have to check.
The parking and the signs, and you are not allowed to park in a bike lane. So we'll have to check that signage and.
This, and you'll see in the report, everybody knows I'm on this road every single day. This is a heavily trafficked.
Yes.
You can't move at times when everyone's trying to get to that merger area. So we're aware of the issues here. Number one comment just notes that I don't believe there's any zoning relief necessary here, but just confirm with the building department just in case that the change from a residential to the commercial use doesn't change their pre-existing setbacks or anything like
Is there
that.
someone here for this application?
Yes. Lisa Poirier sitting in the back.
Lisa.
Yeah. So I would recommend that. This is an unlisted action under SECRA, so we'd have to complete SECRA before deeming an application complete, and they should submit a full EAF. Number three, the project site is located within close proximity to another restaurant, and you got the motel use just a few lots down. As we've been asking, we'll ask for a traffic analysis as part of this project, so we could assess traffic and parking needs assessment. Because remember, these are minimum parking requirements here. If we believe that these properties are causing parking mayhem on the roads, we should maybe be asking for more parking on these properties. So they should look at that to see that we're not just providing the minimum because of this issue that's been raised.
So I think you just want to say the project site is located within close by to another, it's both east and west. There's a motel to the west, and to the east is another restaurant.
Yep.
So can you add that?
Yeah, I mean, it says it in number three, but I have to specify the locations, absolutely. Number four was just an open-ended question I always say about cross-access and no left turns. I don't have any, I don't know about cross-access yet because I don't know what we have in place. I didn't see that we had anything in place anywhere and what benefits it would be, but
Edgewater?
yeah, Edgewater. I don't know if
On the
Edgewater.
right, and Ocean Cove on Ocean.
Yeah. So, but I noted in there that these are issues, and I'll clarify that cross-access and,
This is why we should develop a cross-access plan.
Yeah.
You've got a slope here.
Yeah, no, there may
Yeah.
be any number of reasons, but let's just, we're doing site plans, so let's just leave it open. I'll say that, issues of cross-access and, no left turns out of the site will be considered at the time of formal. Number five talks about review and approval by the ARB. Yeah, and Lisa somewhat acknowledged this. They sort of put this preliminary elevation together, based on an addition and some existing conditions.
So the addition is to the west.
Yeah.
This
This plan,
is blue?
It would be up here.
they're looking at the elevation here.
Yeah, so the addition would be up front here.
But what I say here is that based on these preliminary elevations, the building design appears busy, lacks a consistent architectural design. Only because, it looks like you're having a metal roof here. There's an asphalt roof here. This chimney, I think it says it's in disrepair.
They're going to take a look at
It's
all
sort of
of
just,
this.
this
That's
does,
the existing portion.
yeah. So it's sort of, they're going to hone in on a design a little bit. So
More
that's the,
integrated architectural
Yeah.
plan.
Number six, the minimum front transition yard is 20 feet. For the motel zoning on the highway, it's 20 feet, not 50 feet, let's say like highway business, which requires 50. This project doesn't meet it, so the report notes that they should fix that. They have room back here, and they could probably shift and alter some things, but we
Or
should.
they brought the parking lot to the front?
No, it's about 10 feet off or whatever it is, but you need 20 feet in the front transition
And they
yard.
can move it to the back.
And you could probably move it to the back.
Let's keep in mind if there's gonna be cross-access, we need.
Potentially,
some
yeah.
strip.
And I do note in here possibly shifting further back, but maintaining at least a 25-foot buffer back here, since this is a pre-existing setback back here. But at least, even if we had to push the parking back here to get some more to redesign, let's maintain the 25-foot buffer in the back because there is a residence back there. And I know the residence is zoned motel. I'll acknowledge that. But that property, the chance of that property being developed in that manner, is not highly likely. So I just want to be cognizant of that there's a person living there that's going from a residence to a restaurant.
I also just want to point out that the residence property is about 10 to 12 feet higher in elevation than the parking area where we would be at. So
That whole area
it's
is a hill.
yeah, it's a pretty big hill,
It
so
is.
they're
The whole
looking
area is
out
like
over
that.
pretty much everything. So I'm just wanted to put that on the
How
record.
do they get in and out?
They have
They have a flag strip that
they have
comes
a flag
right
strip
on
right
the
next
west
Is that
side.
just to the west of the driveway into the
Yes, it's.
Yeah, but this project, as you know, shifts. They're getting rid of the
to the east?
and this is going to further. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry.
That's where the driveway is.
I'm sorry, the east side. This
The east, right?
east side. This side of the it comes up and wraps around.
Comes up, yeah.
yeah. This is the driveway
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the back, and this circular is going to be eliminated, and one driveway will be over
Correct.
here, which is further away, which is
Right.
good.
Yeah, where we're taking it down to one curb cut.
So I pointed out that because this is not a residentially zoned property, it's not subject. I mean, it's not a residentially zoned property. It's not subject to a transition yard setback. So that's why I note that let's take some consideration here, and I do note that consider site plan elements just to address this concern, landscaping, buffering, lighting considerations, and no outdoor dining or activities in the back of the building. I think
Good.
that's legitimate. If outdoor dining is proposed, it should be accounted for in the site plan and accounted for in the total number of tables.
Doing some rooftop.
Yeah, but it's hard to say, because that elevation was sort of just put together, so I don't know exactly. But it looks like there was some rooftop proposal there.
I don't think so. I think it's just first
Just a
floor.
decorative.
Just decorative.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right. Well, we'll take a look. What's that?
Rooftop patio.
Yeah, seems to be all the rage.
We're gonna connect the dots and say dining.
That's correct. Because we do need to know about that, Dennis.
Yeah.
So if outdoor lighting is proposed, outdoor dining. Again, number 9 talks about the sustainable design elements to incorporate into a project to the maximum extent possible. The parking calculations need to be revised because they're showing it as a 1 per 3 persons, 1 per 3 seats, I think you did on this thing. So it's really 1 per 3 persons of rated occupancy based on the fire marshal's review of the plans.
What's the occupancy? Do we have it yet?
Not yet.
Too early.
So too early, but that has to be shown. Dumpster locations will need to be provided. Again, let's keep it as far away from the residential property as possible. It doesn't look like this would require interior landscaping per se because the code requires it once you exceed a certain threshold. But again, I would say consider the parking lot design that incorporates
Green islands.
green
Yeah.
for any number of reasons. It's green infrastructure. It handles the stormwater. It's a place to put
Shade.
snow in the winter. It shades during the
shade.
summer. So there's a whole slew of them that I would encourage.
So if you have a garbage pickup truck, they're gonna have to be able to get in here, pick up a garbage dumpster and turn around.
Yeah. So
Circulation.
yeah. That's a good point. I should note that in here for you, Jackie.
Circulation.
Related to the traffic volumes, are there proposed hours of operation?
I don't know the answer to that yet, but
Just to note that should be included if it was a more of a daytime cafe type of place
Sure.
or an evening,
Or
like the
Edgewater. Yeah, absolutely. It's in the archaeological sensitive area, but it looks like this property's been developed since
Yeah.
the beginning of time. Lot coverage needs to be provided. Number 14 was the interior landscaping considerations. Number 15 is about the lighting plan, and I'll put the appropriate language in there, Kate, that we use in all of them, that talks about dark sky and,
It's nice if they don't have to go refer someplace else to get the rules.
No, it's usually, you're 100% right. Again, mechanicals on the roof or on the ground to be screened. And then again, we'll do our referrals, which may lead to some other
And
changes.
why don't you add 18 signage?
Yes.
They're going to probably want.
I'm already there.
Because Edgewater sign is only on its building? Can't remember.
There's I think there's a street.
There might be a street
I
one
think a
there.
little. Yeah, there's a little one that they will put like open, closed for vacation kind of.
But this is not this
Street
property per se, but this is a good example of when you're looking at parking, that sometimes the parking demand is higher than what the parking requirement is. I mean, I'm telling you, you've all been down there. There's parking
Sure.
all over the street. There's not enough parking. So,
But if there's parking a lot on the street and it's not a bike path, as Tom,
no, then you're right. You're right.
then we should be able to use that parking space.
I agree with you.
Because it just gives you some elbow room.
It does. So with those minor changes, I'm going to recommend adoption of the previous.
Okay, any other questions? Lisa, any questions on the board? Okay, motion to adopt by Kate, second by David. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions?
Six in favor and absent.
Thank you.
Are you done, Anthony?
No, but you could go through everybody else.
Okay.
You go in order.
Brenna?
It's fine.
Number 7.
Yeah,
1004 Montauk Highway.
Highway. This is the site plan application for the medical office building on the corner of Willow Road in Watermill.
Yep, yep.
What do I have here? The site. So we're looking at the staff, yeah, the draft staff report and decision.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know which one you want. It's the one that says draft.
Yeah, it's all the same, nothing's changed.
This is all, you have 2 packets here?
Yeah,
No, it's the same
that's
thing.
why.
Yeah.
The same thing.
It's the same
Oh,
thing.
well, there's a
Keep it
resolution,
simple.
decision, as well as a report and the, any attachments.
Keep it.
Yeah, because there's a map behind it.
Ah, oh, you did a whole thing.
Yeah.
Whole thing. 1, 2.
So this is the draft. We are not under action deadline, but we'll see, I guess, what the board feels about everything.
Can we take a peek at the architecture?
Yeah, this is, so I don't know if you recall, this was on for pre-submission.
We recommended that you look at the Tracy building. And so
Yeah,
that has,
yeah, so this
echoes
was
of it, yeah.
the result of that and having a work session after the pre-submission. So they,
Nice.
when they submitted their site plan application, the architecture was already addressing the board's comments and concerns.
And this has gone through ARB as well.
It did, they had, they didn't have any comments or changes to add, and they recommended approval. So this is the side facing the parking lot, and this is the side facing Montauk Highway. I'll just move this to the side so you can reference the side plans here. So I'm gonna just go through the staff report. The request is for a 6,300 2-story, 6,300 square foot 2-story medical building. There is a full footprint cellar or basement for the purposes of storage and mechanical equipment. It's on the parcel's vacant. And in the HB zoning, it measures 0.923 acres or 40,210 square feet. And it's in the archaeological sensitive area. It was subject to a minor subdivision in 1985 that was approved with some limited covenants and approval conditions. For SECRA, it's classified as an unlisted action for pursuant to SECRA and the town code. The planning board adopted a negative declaration on January 9th of this year. The hearing was held, the public hearing was held on February 13th of this year and closed with a 10-day comment period. There were no public comments made or received. Referrals went out. As we already said, the ARB went to ARB and they had no comments and they recommended approval. The CAC submitted a letter mainly with a bunch of questions related to the building use and traffic concerns, and then questions regarding lighting, landscape, and signage. So,
What were the questions?
well, some of them are things that we've already looked at. They're in the packet. I can highlight some of
I
the
see here it is. Here.
yeah.
Sorry,
Some of the bigger
didn't see.
things have to do with cross-access, sharing with the restaurant, and maybe that as a way for more late-night uses getting filtered onto residential roads. I guess that was a concern, and just in general, the
We did
impact
look
to
at the
Willow.
cross-section.
We did, yeah. We're recommending cross-access, but they had a question about, I mean, anyone, I guess, going to that restaurant is either gonna take residential roads or not, so I think their concern was giving them an immediate access to residential, and Willow Road. So the impacts to Willow Road and the residential area, they also brought up the alignment of the driveways to the dispensary to the south, or what you're calling east, what you might call east. They also raised some questions regarding the glass facades on both sides of the building and interior lighting, and any necessary lighting that would be required for the cross-access.
Department of Health had standard response, and that they're in receipt of the application, and they required more information. And they also referenced time-bound credits that the applicant is proposing to offset their flow, because they're calculated as having a little more flow than what's allowed. The town engineer just had basic comments about the fees and construction schedule, and they recommend engineering approval. The fire district responded with the building to be fully sprinklered, equipped with Knox boxes, and installing a fire hydrant near the proposed driveway, just north of Montauk Highway. And the fire marshal had, again, standard comments, but they did call out the bollards for the EV charging stations, and that the proposed fire water main there's a proposed fire water main, and the location for the fire department connection is not provided on the plan, and that'll have to be looked at to clarify if they need to have a fire zone or a fire lane. And then they also brought attention to the plantings around the building and maintaining clearance for any of the connections or other equipment that they're going to need access to. Highway didn't have any comments to add at this time. The Planning Commission also had typical comments regarding the reduction of energy consumption, compliance with sanitary code, and gave examples of green building methodologies. The New York State DOT and the Town Conservation Board did not have any response to date. On page 3, I have the start of the site plan objectives. The first one is traffic access. The proposed is for a single curb cut on Willow Road, which we started looking at and discussing. It's about 80 feet from the intersection. It goes into Willow Road 80 feet. The way it was designed is it aligns with a driveway, I guess, to what's going to be the Ashley Capraro site.
I don't think they're going to align.
Which doesn't, well, that one's not really a driveway. Their entrance that they're proposing is further down the road. They're not aligning the way they're both laid out now. It seems like it's going to be, I know you said on the record that it's going to be tough for your engineering.
Yes. So we've spoken.
Can you give us your name for the record, please?
I'm sorry. Yes, Alex Holloman with Bowler Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. And yes, I know we had some testimony before in regards to this, spoken to the applicant again, our client, about where we are with the process and the discussions of the applicant to the south. Our position is we'd like the driveway to remain where it is. I know I went through some points before. We have additional points as well if we'd like to discuss further, but that's sort of the position we'd like to present.
And looking at the other application, I don't know if Anthony, we went over it. It doesn't look like the driveways are going to line up.
They're pretty far apart. I mean, the biggest thing would be they would have to either Ashley Capraro completely redesign their access, which it's going to be hard given all the parameters, and then 1004 completely shift down here, which is downhill and pros is in engineering. It is a tricky corner. I know some of you use it. It goes downhill, so you have people, especially people coming from the east, are turning onto Willow Road going pretty quickly. So having a driveway pretty close to the intersection is tricky. But the only thing the only way to relieve that is to just push it further, or maybe create in only and then out only. But then again, I just don't know.
Right. Well, it's also a sight line with that tree that blocks the lake we talked about.
Yeah, there's two very mature trees on the Montauk Highway right away, which I bring up later and potentially talking about removing.
So I don't know. Maybe don't move the tree, but move the sign.
There's really, I mean, if you move the sign, so there's a tree. I don't know if we want to talk about it now or later, but there's a tree here and a tree here with the sign, I guess roughly here. When I was there, if you move the sign, it doesn't seem like there's another better location for the people that are coming from the east, because you have the other tree
but I think you're gonna see, it's gonna be the similar condition where you'll see it too late. That I still don't think you're gonna improve visibility of the sign.
Tom, you have
By
any suggestions
just
about
moving the
that?
sign. I don't know how it works with
Impossible
the.
to see the sign.
It
I
is,
usually
yeah,
have the
unless-
marker for the next building so that I know it's coming up, but I've missed it a couple of times.
Because
Possible
it's-
to see the street sign?
Yeah, we
It's-
can't see the sign that says Willow Road.
You're referring to the fact that it's too far into Willow Road, so you can't see it from Montauk as you're driving before you can see that it's Willow Road.
Exactly.
So if we were to bring it further towards Montauk,
It might work.
yes, which
That's
is
what
a,
I'm saying.
a
It
higher
It would have to
elevation.
be
Easy.
before that tree, which I don't know how it would work with the state, but.
Yeah, so there's two large trees. I
have
think
a
you're
good
referring
sight
to
for it.
another
Do you
tree,
have a
maybe.
street view?
Do you want me to get the street view?
You can do a street view, and I have a site photo that I took too that I could pull up on the screen if we want to look at a little closer.
And how far is the driveway down from the intersection?
It's about 80 feet, so it meets code.
That's not a good spot. Hold on.
What is this line though?
So the tree is blocking the sign.
So can you move it slowly as if you were in a car?
Yeah.
Keep going,
That
keep going.
Maybe you could turn
Spin
around.
it.
see, there's the tree.
Yeah.
There's the
There's the
sign.
sign. So, I don't know, I think that there might be some leeway with the sign, to
Mhm.
move the sign.
Yes,
Be a
I would
pity
agree.
to
Get
lose
it
the
right
tree.
on the
Right
edge
on
of
the
the
road.
pavement or
Yes.
something. There's almost no shoulder there.
Is
There's,
I
that the
think
town board?
Our highway department would probably be the folks to possibly move the sign. I don't think that's the DOT's responsibility, but I would suggest maybe talk to the highway department about, pulling it 5 feet closer to Montauk Highway or something,
Okay.
might make a difference. I'd start
We'd be
with our
fine with that.
highway department.
The state right away.
The local Citizen Advisory Committee mentioned in their report that they were interested in knowing if the sidewalk is coming in. Is that happening?
it is, yeah, it's proposed.
So the sidewalk.
That was a town request.
Okay, the sidewalk will also have some impact on where that sign goes to. If the sidewalk.
It does, the sidewalk
Yes.
it would be inside where the tree line
Yes.
is.
Oh, it-
Yes,
Okay.
sidewalk is, yes, so we've placed it in the right of way. So
I see.
we did an initial application into the DOT, and they submitted a no objection. So we had essentially a permit in hand, given the design as it was. I know that the board requested a sidewalk, we put that in, and went back to them. So they have also noted that we are indicating the trees to be removed, and they would like us to try to save them or plant some additional. Those are recent comments we received a few weeks ago. So we are in conversations with them at this time.
DOT said to plant the
Correct.
tree?
Correct.
And you said they've given you permission to put the sidewalk in there, right?
Yes, so they understood that we've come back and said we'd actually like to do improvements in the right of way, including the sidewalk. So we have been in communication with them about the design. The design is per DOT standards because it is in DOT right of way. And because of this construction, the trees are now could be impacted and need to be removed. So we actually have them to be removed instead of trying to potentially save them. And they said that they would not like that, to try to save them at all possibility, and to potentially plant more plants.
But I have an idea.
Yes.
Tom, I don't know if it's permissible. Could they move the Willow Street sign on the other?
Across the other corner?
Yeah.
Well, you usually want it before you get to the intersection, not after you. You're talking about putting it on the
Yeah.
west, what I'll call
West.
the west
West side,
or south side, or whatever. You usually want it before you get to the intersection, not,
Is that etched in a Bible or?
well, you're kind of already past the road when you see the sign.
Well, but it's before
It's
for
not-
the eastbound, for the
I-
westbound people, but it's before, the other corner would be before for the eastbound people.
That's true. So,
About keeping
again, if you're in communication with the DOT, I'd suggest maybe you speak to them about their idea about moving the roads, street sign. I think it's our highway department's responsibility, but even if you get guidance from the DOT, explain the problem.
Sure.
They might say, yeah.
Does it say Montauk as well on it, or does it just say?
It says Montauk on it.
Willow Road.
So it does have identification for the DOT road as well. It's a.
It says
It does.
Willow and Montauk.
I thought it just said Willow.
Nope, it says Montauk.
Oh, it does say
Okay,
Montauk.
so it benefits them to a certain degree too as
And
well.
it may be
Yes.
their responsibility.
Yes.
Haven't moved too many street signs.
But there's plenty of space on the other side.
Yeah.
And if it's right adjacent or close to the sidewalk, and within, their jurisdiction.
All right, discuss with them about helping that
Maybe ask
situation.
them about the placement of the street sign. There's concern, and do they have any suggestions? And would that be the responsibility of the town or of the DOT to maybe move that a few feet?
Sorry, we went out of
Southwest.
sequence.
That's okay.
Bringing
Yes,
it up.
Southwest bound visualization.
So then
of the road sign.
And then I added a note about if there's a revision to the site plan with regard to what the fire marshal's response was. The next item is interior circulation and parking. 42 spaces have been provided. 42 spaces are the minimum required, and one truck space as well. Right,
Loading space right near the front.
truck loading space near the front. That includes 3 ADA spaces and 2 EV charging stations. Landscape and screening. So they are, as we already discussed, trying to save and maintain the 2 existing trees in the Montauk Highway right-of-way. We also noted 4-inch height evergreens during the pre-submission phase to screen all the parking.
Yes, you would like additional screening on the, yes, like maybe continue this.
So there's 3 trees proposed, a lot of ornamental planting, green giants along the property line, the shared property line. But then there's some screening that's lacking here, that's along the parking lot along Willow Road. So in the report, I have 4-foot high evergreens, maybe boxwood since they're already on the plan.
Sure.
And maybe addressing the driveway cut too with 3-inch height evergreens, and then whatever else you want to add to that. But then, in addition to what I've included in the report, there's some screening here separating from the
driveway.
The driveway, but it includes a large amount of deciduous shrubs. So maybe have these junipers keep wrapping around, or 5 to 6 height junipers, so that you could address the trash enclosure, but then also create further screening
Buffer.
that's around evergreens.
Sure, we can accommodate that.
The property itself is, well, the middle area was cleared at some point, and there's
Correct.
just successional grass growing there. But there are a lot of trees on the property.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, going back to our lengthy conversation about trees and tree inventories and trying to save what's left, rather than have this property clear cut
Mhm.
when your builders go in.
Mhm.
That's what we're trying to avoid.
Okay. Well, most of the site is being developed. I don't know. So you're saying the edges of the parking lot. I guess we need to go to the
Yeah.
grading plan, which I don't know if you.
Does it show us a tree inventory?
I don't.
No, I mean,
No.
there are a lot of trees that have come in since the clearing. The clearing was in between 2021 and 2022, and it's grown back significantly since then. I don't know that
That's the
there are
middle.
significant diameter trees that have already grown in. They're all pretty thin, so I don't think there's
The
anything
major
there of real maturity.
Yes, our surveys will pick up a large diameter tree trunk like they have along Montauk Highway. But if you were to do this Google Street View, I think they're smaller split trunk style trees along Willow. I don't know if we could get a better visual on that, but they are trees. They're not shrubs and they're not grasses. But I don't think they were picked up on the in the survey, given that the diameter of their trunk, because they're mini split.
Can you just take a look at that?
Sure.
Because we're really just trying to prevent clear cut.
Yes.
And also where your staging area is going to be from a construction standpoint.
Okay.
How are you getting into that? Are you going to have a dedicated rear access point for the construction trucks to get in so that you're not wrecking everything?
Right. I think when the contractor would come up, the way I would do it is that they would establish the construction entrance where the proposed entrance would ultimately be, so that any compaction happening there, because if you do it in a location, you go in to plant your shrubs, it's going to be very compacted. So that's how I would do it, and I would think most contractors would agree. And it gives you good access to the whole site there because you're not coming off Montauk.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the proposed.
Yeah, if you just place your construction entrance where your future entrance will be. We could take a look at what can be saved. There is a lot of grading on the site because the site does slope quite a bit down to this low point here. So,
Well, let's make a note of that.
Okay,
'cause
I will.
Yeah, we're really trying, right?
yes.
To save what's
Yeah.
left.
What trees can be saved, there's less to plant, and it's, more advantageous, so it's yes.
So I'll table, I'll remove the discussion about the removal of the tree and the right of way since the DOT
Yes.
wants to try to keep that.
Yes. We're trying to tell them that there's construction in that area, so we can't guarantee it will be. If you put a sidewalk 4 feet from a large diameter tree, it's difficult to construct and keep the tree. So we're looking at how we can keep it, and they're trying to say if we don't think it will be successful, then they would like us to propose trees in the right of way.
If you were to walk along, you'll see many sidewalks
cycle?
that jog
Yes.
down, that
Yes.
go around. Yeah.
Yes. And I think we could put tree protection around it. There is some grading needed, and obviously the laying of concrete and such. So, efforts will be given to keep the tree. We like the trees out there. They're in a good location.
And I noted for the proposed, there's a couple of proposed shade trees and trees throughout the property, if they be a minimum of a 3.5 inch caliber rather than 2.5 to 3 inches.
Sure. And we're okay with these additional plantings here. We just need to make sure, and as you've indicated, it can only go so far into the entrance, as you know.
Yeah, it's
So,
really for,
yeah.
obviously want to keep
A
one.
little bit
side,
of the
but
radius. Yep.
Yeah.
We can stop it a little short.
The master plan, the proposed is consistent with the relevant goals and objectives of the master and comp plan. The square footage of the building is 6,300 square feet of finished space and another 3,150 square feet of basement space in the HB zoning where a max of 15,000 square feet is allowed. So it's in accordance with the code. For natural features, at the top of page 5, the GIS flags it as on wetlands inventory, but I did review it with Marty Shea, and it's outside of the 200 feet drainage easement, distance of the drainage easement. Cultural features, it's in the archaeological sensitive area. There was a phase 1A and 1B investigation and survey submitted. That was dated August of 24, and it encountered no artifacts or features and recommends no further archaeological work. For pavement, we already talked about the new sidewalk and the walk paths taking you to both entrances of the building.
Yes.
Lighting, the information has been provided. All the fixtures are LED and noted to be 3,000 Kelvin, which needs to be reduced to 2,700 for the new code.
No problem.
Amended. There's 10-foot and 14-foot height lighting poles
Not
proposed.
14 feet.
So I have it in here to change the 14 feet field fixtures to 10 feet as well.
No problem.
And
Don't
then,
use the word dark skies somewhere in your lighting.
I'm sorry?
Use the word dark skies somewhere.
Yeah, I do have that in the decision. I could put it in here. I don't know if I have it in here. I don't think I do. Not in the report in there. The specs for the full cutoff fixtures look good. They'll just have to be resubmitted once you guys, I don't know if you have to re-specify something new to get the proper height poles or 2,700 Kelvin. I didn't see that as an option on the spec sheet, so you may have to.
It should be
re-propose it.
swap in, so it should be swap in.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully. Okay.
And what about the emission of light from all
Yeah.
from all the glass surfaces? Are you going to close them down at night so that it's not?
Yeah, I would say that they don't have an end user yet, but they would not want light shining brightly out of the building when not in use. Probably have some security lights, a light, if you will, inside the building. Not to play the role of architect, but.
A lot of times these offices are heavily illuminated at night.
Yes.
We want to avoid that.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yes.
glass.
So we're going to have to think about some limitation on that.
Maybe we could do add some time to it. I did add that information for the interior lighting or specifications have to be provided and provided to the planning board and then noted on the plan for some sort of mitigation,
Yeah.
whether that's a
We're
schedule
restricted
thing.
to 0
or-
lumens at the property line.
Mhm.
So it's going to really make sense to keep lighting low in there.
Okay.
We might develop some language
Yeah.
about after business hours.
Yes.
That lighting should be reduced.
These are around.
So as
medical.
not to project beyond the certain amount of
Yes.
footage and onto the right. But what happens is that some of these properties that are all glass.
Right. I know what you're talking about. The retail, they almost want to show their retail
Yeah.
Right.
in the middle of the night when you're driving
In
by.
the middle of the night,
Yes.
and it's also very distracting. It's a safety issue.
Yes. Well, this use, I would say there would be like a low light just so it's not completely dark, but it would not be intended to advertise the contents inside like another retail location would be.
Well, Pren will use some language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Sorry, thinking about something. And then
Signage on here?
It's been contemplated in place as a placeholder, but without an end user, we don't want to. We don't want to go too far. I know on the render you showed Mount Sinai,
no, we have a separate thing for signage.
and we know we have to go back. So
Yeah.
yes.
It's a PBD. So I talk about light trespass limits, reducing everything to 0.1 foot candles as opposed to a 0.13, so it conforms to the code. And then looking at the averages to make sure the limits of the illumination are met and the parking lot averages are met. It looks like they are, the averages, but I just can't see that on the plan.
Okay.
The facades we've already looked at and talked about. I don't know if you want to look at that a little bit more or not. The ARB indicated approval. And again, I noted the interior lighting with all the glass at both fronts. For drainage, that'll come from the town engineer. Any recommendations or comments from them? Public utility, the proposed is for an IA system, and the calculated density flow exceeds the allowable flow by 202 gallons. I know that's a question mark now because I think it has included a certain percentage from the basement, and I saw the county had something to say about that you might not be needed to be included. But
Yes.
regardless, you're
We
over.
bought extra credits because it's much more difficult to go to the BOR than to get a parking variance if they were to do something other than storage. It's intended to be for storage. If they get a tenant that wants even more, we know we have to come back for parking and other things, but they wanted to buy the extra credits, which will not be used initially.
No public address or sound system. Physically challenged access will need to be made available for the entire building, but there are 3 ADA spaces included in the parking. The residential for that doesn't apply. For energy conservation, so they did include 2 EV charging stations and a bike rack. But no solar panels. I don't believe anything beyond that. I don't know about the architecture itself, but they addressed a couple of items, and I have the note in here with the board's general notes about green design elements.
So no solar or anything like that?
Not at this time.
Go back to L. I need to see if they know outdoor amplification
I'm sorry, which one, L?
on page 7.
Uh-huh.
Right, that's clear.
No
Clearer.
music, no ambient,
Say that again?
no outdoor amplification.
Oh,
sound
okay. Yeah, I'll include, I have that a little bit more detailed in the
Okay.
decision when we get to it, but I can include it here too for the sake of clarity.
It's just a clear,
Yeah.
concise statement. Does the town, the handicap requirements, is anyone requiring ramps for wheelchairs or not?
Is anyone, I'm sorry?
Requiring ramps for wheelchair access. Is that part of the?
They're
So
in
curb
here, and the
trucks.
town engineer reviewed it with the preliminary referral.
We've met all federal ADA accessibility. It's also right near. I mean, it's there's 3 spaces provided, lots of area for van access to come outside of the vehicle with large ramps to enter into the building at grade.
Okay.
Yes, all provided right at the front of the entrance.
So we talked about cross-access. I'm on the last page, page 8. The plans, I'm calling for a note for the plans
Yes.
to include cross-access rather than future cross-access. So change the plan there. It is with that lot, Calissa or Trotta, the restaurant lot, also being a current application. They've gone through pre-submission for the work that they're for the work that they're proposing. They still have yet to come in with a formal site plan, so we can address executing the cross access at that time. But for in the meantime, the way I understand it is we can call the cross access out on the plans and they can allow for it on site. But we are limited to a future cross access covenant just because we can't execute anything right now.
And
I did in
if that comes to be and one is constructed and we are in loss of 3 parking spaces, we don't need to do a ZBA action.
No.
They're credited, you'd be credited.
Okay. That's
So
correct.
do we have more cross-access to the east, to the property beyond Trotta? Claire, do you remember?
It's
It's
on
the,
Trotta.
We have it on Trotta, I'm pretty sure.
Trotta is in the process, yes.
And then,
Oh, we got it. Oh, yes.
So is Trotta to the east?
it's actually to the north.
Plan
but
north.
What you might call the north. Yeah.
It feels east if you're
Plan
driving,
north.
yeah.
it's east and west.
We have it on this lot too, yes, the one to
So
the
we
east
have
of
it
that.
all over 3 lots, which is great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll be good. I included a sketch for it. It's just a concept and an idea for the sake of discussion. Whether it lands there or not is
Claire
a different
has
story.
she has a great mechanism that she puts right. Remember that nice line that she
Oh,
did?
she did a very nice
Yeah,
map.
the
Did you do
green
it?
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
gave you a color
yeah.
one. I'll have to look at that one.
And
But you can extend it, you know.
in this,
Oh, to show the other lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what Claire did was actually.
Oh,
Claire
okay,
showed
good.
All
All right.
across all the properties we had, from the cemetery to the Burger King.
in discussion with our client, this is something that's okay. They understand, but they were just asking if it will be formalized in the paperwork, if you will, that the removal of the 3 spaces would not require a ZBA action. Is that a mechanism? Is that
Yeah,
goes into
you
the-
can make it a finding
Okay.
in
the
your
decision.
approval resolution.
That's just their
Yeah.
concern
Yeah.
because we were so honed in on getting the right parking that we were telling them that they would remove 3 spaces.
Grant relief from parking. Can they?
You can, for cross-access purposes.
Can the
But
ZBA?
ZBA can't grant them relief from parking.
Well, they have to submit an application to the zoning board of appeals, yeah. But no, you can grant the
We can,
relief for
we
the
can,
cross-access, yeah.
yeah, so we
Okay.
would include that.
Okay, they just would like something on there, so it's not so much implied, I guess.
No, you're right, it should be a finding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me again why you're objecting to exit at the rear of your site. 'Cause I know that area very well.
How do you? What do you refer
Three
to?
lines on her little map.
Yes.
Yeah, that's sort of direct traffic toward the rear of the site anyway.
Okay.
What's your client's objection to having your exit there? I can see your entrance you want.
Oh, you're saying realign the entrance? Okay.
No, the entry is where it is, but the exit.
Oh, 2 curb cuts?
Yeah.
Well, an additional curb cut here. Like, the parking is laid out to have the 42 spaces. Let's, I guess, take out the cross access. If you were to come in here, you'd be going directly into, you generally, parking layout wise, want to go directly where there is a drive aisle. So we actually did some sketches as we contemplated this. And if you were to align the plans that were given to us directly across, it hits parking spaces and our curb island here, as opposed to going directly across the drive aisle that's on our site. So we were having some circulation issues with that. It is the low part of our site where all of our drainage is located. And then one last thing that I just wanted to reiterate, but maybe wasn't spoken last testimony, was more to the fire marshal's point and the fire marshal's findings. This is an over 30-foot building, which requires by state fire code aerial access for the outriggers of a larger fire truck. And so that's why we're providing 26 feet wide drive aisle here instead of 24. So being able to have the fire truck come in and park here and then reverse back to Deerfield or Willow is more advantageous than coming in here and trying to have to circle around. If the entrance is here, getting them into next to the building.
The exit there.
Yes.
The exit down.
So you want to have 2 entrances. Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to limit. So
Yeah, you generally want to
narrow
limit curb cuts. I guess.
We do, but it's a it's a hill. I know those cars go whipping down that hill, and you have a scenario.
So you would have this,
Now with
this,
cross
and then
access
2 more.
Now, the green cross access
Right.
line coming into the site you'd be directing all that traffic through your site into, I don't know, not that advantageous place to exit. And I've also seen a couple of cars stacked on Willow trying to make left turns. So now you'd have a scenario where cars would be maybe halfway out to that drive lane trying to secure the space.
But the cross-access could go through the middle of the property, I mean, where they have the actual driveway.
And Ashley Caparo could also move their driveway a little bit.
Typically, you want to avoid two curb cuts, but this would be an egress only.
Could we do? I haven't seen the.
Cross-access plan.
Could they? Yes. So I'm looking at. Would they want cross access up here and then have it directly across and move the EVs to the back?
You could.
Because these EVs, they're not necessarily for patrons. They're leasable space. Like it's
Yeah.
you come up. It's the same way you have Tesla spaces in shopping centers.
Right.
It's not meant. So they actually have priority space right there. So if you're coming to see the doctor and you don't have an EV, you can't use those spaces,
Right. Yeah,
which
so it
isn't
might
great.
make more sense to move them to the rear.
I always like them in the rear.
Yeah.
This came first, and then I don't know.
And then the
So
cross-access could go right across.
I just don't know how this plan is 100% shaping out. And then so if you look here, this distance is far, and that's closer. How it angles in.
It's just cross-access where it's the most traffic is going to be here for this structure, but at the same time it's a restaurant use, so they're probably going to have
So they have
semi-opposing
cross-access,
hours.
but it's not named exactly where it would be, just in the future. Okay, so you're going first. it seems.
But my sense is
They'd
that the
have to-
people in the restaurant are going to use the right out from that restaurant. From their driveway, they're not gonna do this and then come to Willow.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't think of going through
No.
a medical parking lot to get out.
No.
Probably
And
getting
not
a
on
lot.
Willow either.
Right.
It's hard to make a right-hand
I would
turn.
think there's parking in the back, they might want to avoid this, it's kind of like the mayhem of cars entering on Montauk Highway. They might get in their cars in the back and say, oh, here's exit.
Yeah, they might see
Proper
that more because
signage.
all their parking is toward the back
Yeah,
of the building.
getting out, not having to re-navigate, getting back out into Montauk Highway, going down to Willow, whether they're gonna head up to make a left or more likely, hopefully, use Willow to fit into Deerfield.
Mhm.
I would think that would be preferable.
Keeping it where
Where people,
where it is.
the
sort of.
restaurants, you know how you get that craziness, people waiting to get in, waiting to get out. and
Yeah,
all of a
sounds
sudden, you're in the rear parking lot, and it's time to leave. You see a lot of mayhem at the top, and now you have signage directing you out to Willow. It's like, oh, let's go here.
Yeah.
Claire, didn't the restaurant get some kind of approval to upgrade that back area?
They're in for
Was it pre-submission? I think we're at pre-submission.
To make that outdoor dining?
It's for the
Yeah.
patio
Yeah,
enclosure.
it's a pre-submission right now.
If you move it up, the cross access is gonna be right by there.
Yeah,
Patio,
the
which-
cross access up here doesn't work with their plan as they proposed it
Okay.
during pre-submission.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's changing much when they come to site plan. Probably not. But
Well, we're not gonna solve it now, so
Yeah.
let's
Okay.
take a look at it. And
But Dennis, you're talking about a single lane, a single access, single lane going in,
Single lane in.
a single lane out, right? So you have an in and out, which
So would
kind
that-
of alluded to early on.
Would that be 12 feet each wide if it was single like that?
you probably have
Well,
to
you might
keep
need
this
some
one a
wide
certain
for 5
distance,
feet
right?
access.
Yeah. It's just that's just a lot of entrance because then I guess the dispensary to the south would have 2 on Willow. We would have 2, and then they have the main shared drive aisle to all the mechanics. It feels like a lot of entrances and exits. We would not suggest that, but
plus the health club down there, which has a wide open curve.
oh, that does yes.
That's,
You're not
What's
defining the
down here?
street very well. It feels like a lot of entrances and exits.
look at this,
What is that now?
it's a health club, I think.
Yeah,
But
it's-
this is, they're wide open,
It's
see?
a rental. Yeah.
It's a good point. There is no defined curb cut. It's
No,
just a
it's
pull
just
off
a-
the road. Yeah.
All right, so let's
Okay.
get a little
We
wrap
can
on
leave
that.
it as is.
Yeah.
So that's cross-access architecture we talked about. Ag overlay doesn't apply. I did draft a decision, included it in the packet. There's a draft resolution there. Do we want to
Do you
go
wanna
through this
hold
quickly
off?
since we're not, yeah, because it's on, we're not
You wanna
gonna
hold
adopt
off?
this,
We'll
I could
get that
edit this.
language in there for the cross access.
Yeah, and address all the, any minor
Let's talk
changes.
we'll run it by the town engineer. Do you want us to do that, like your concept, Dennis? Yeah, let's do that. And then, we'll talk to you.
It's substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I use that all the time.
Yeah, Willow, yeah.
And 80
We've
feet
got
from the
property
intersection.
over there, and it's a terrible road, I think.
And coming in, if you're, have an entrance only, then you can get out of the road pretty quickly.
It's
Whereas
hard
if
to
you're
make a
trying
right,
to
it's
come
hard to
back.
make a right-hand turn out of there, out of Willow.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
that's
I did it.
Because of the hill.
I know you're always saying
traffic is
left-hand
coming.
turns are the worst maneuvers. I found it, the easiest way to get onto that road was a left turn heading, as if you're heading east.
Right.
Really?
And all the
That's-
other ones were like,
And
Oh, Prima, that
that
was dangerous.
first driveway being 80 feet from the corner, 80 feet is not really enough distance for a vehicle over, 10 or 15 miles an hour. I mean,
Yeah.
vehicle going 30
Yes,
miles an
let's
hour,
do
you
there.
need 300 feet or 275 or whatever it used to be. So it's not a whole lot of sight distance from coming around that corner. So the idea of
What happens is
somebody,
you're coming, you're entering Willow fast, you're exiting that driveway slow. Because it's a hill, gotta get out.
in only might make sense,
Yeah,
and the out
fast,
is
slow,
another
bid.
100 feet or whatever it is
Yeah.
down the,
You would
down
have that much distance.
I don't know.
It's, that's
Okay.
Okay, so we're not gonna have action on here, right? We're
no,
just
we'll
gonna-
have it back on,
Yeah.
for the 10th of April. That's the deadline, and we'll address
You
everything.
may wanna move here.
Yeah, let's run it by
Let
Tom.
Tom
I'll meet with Tom and see what he
Vehicles come
says.
back anyway,
punt.
you know?
Professional
And then
eye on
we'll get a professional eye on it.
Better place for it.
Yeah, we could take a look.
Depending on what happens.
Because the town doesn't have a preference on where the electric goes. Okay.
And Alex, when you talk to the DOT, ask them about the other side of Willow for the sign.
Okay.
The street sign.
Yeah.
Maybe that
We
is the
can
better
move it.
choice.
Okay. But the town would like the tree to go away in that particular area.
Well,
No.
preferably not if it
No.
works, right? But,
But-
I don't
It's
know.
a visibility thing, is
Well,
that?
it's a if
Well,
it's
that's
a
the one that's
safety
like-
thing,
yeah.
Okay.
it's a safety thing,
Yeah.
right? That's
It does limit line of
The
sight.
tree is quite old and wonderful.
But if you do take the tree away, you gotta replant a couple.
yeah, right.
We might ask for something like a 6-inch caliber tree.
Yeah, could happen.
All right.
That's good. That's productive.
Okay, great, this was
Sure.
helpful, thanks so much.
So what would be our next steps from us?
Yeah, we'll talk. Well, it's gonna take us a couple days to get in touch with Tom, so early next week, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then
What's
we'll
our next deadline?
August.
At the
I'm
next-
sorry, April 10th.
At the next
Yeah.
meeting, yeah.
So we're due back on April 10th.
I'll have it back on. We'll have some conversations in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, so the Richardson Commons project is next.
Yeah.
I've been patiently waiting. Number 8. That's coming up.
Okay, so, to update you, I did get a email referral response about the issue of the red bollards being assigned, and it is correct. Because it's a structure that's outlined in the color associated with the targets, and that's what the determination was.
So it's considered an advertisement?
Yes,
Or a sign or
it's
something?
identification of
Okay.
extension sign, exactly. So, but she also confirmed that if it was painted gray, which is not associated with Target, that would not, it would just be a bollard. So, so I have written this. And this would also, we kind of tabled the Target sign. I was just verifying whether it met the requirements, and it does. It meets the master sign plan and the town code for the size of the sign. So they've updated their plans, and then it shows the gray. I didn't have the new plans that showed the gray, so you'll see a condition that says the plans show the gray. But you can see there's the Target sign, and there's the bollards. 3 bollards, right?
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
And the
plans.
size of, what, the size of the sign, did you say something about the size of the sign?
Yes, so we were just verifying that the size of the sign was in keeping with the master sign plan, the width of the other signs in the site plan, and it all lines
So
up.
does it have to get a little smaller?
They already made it smaller.
You made it smaller.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
That's
it
great.
looks good, right? The whites and the
Yeah, I think the white will be very nice.
it's great. So-
Glorian, who is not here, but she made a site visit to the Target in Virginia.
The drive-up stalls?
No,
Oh.
but she said that the drive-up stalls were not near the entrance, they were near,
They were on the side.
on the side,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe near another entrance to the Target.
Maybe a secondary.
The staff members come
Secondary
out with
exit,
the
you know? Right, and that, there were red bollards there, and what else did you say? Anything?
But I've seen that at ShopRite in Patchogue where they have a secondary entrance door away from the main entrance where people come.
Yeah.
pick up.
So we're not quite sure where yours are going to be, in the front of the store?
Right in the front. We haven't.
Yeah.
Harrisburg, Virginia, and reviewed places and parking places for the app pickup. These spots are not adjacent to the entrance of the store. That is where the handicap spaces are placed. The app pickup spaces are at the far end of the building, approximately 200 feet from the entrance. Two red balls on the sidewalk identify the pathway from the store to the parking spaces.
Yeah, but here the handicap spots are directly where they
Directly
should
in
be.
front.
And I think a lot of the Target stores are built as standalone buildings, right? Not incorporated into
Right.
A major shopping center.
So it's a little bit different from the space.
I did do an site inspection also on the issue of the any of the other facilities having it. So Walgreens is the only one that has one designated, and it consists of a sign,
A sign.
one sign that they put there
Yeah,
that says it.
yeah. Staples too.
The other facility, so it's incorporated into Kimco. There are A through F, all these areas, and there's 2 spaces, and then they come. So any of the stores can use it and say, okay, you can pick up an F in the shopping center, and they could go to F and then pick it up. They're obviously the ones nearest to their stores, probably.
Right.
But that's how they've done it. That's what the designation is, which I kind of like that.
Interesting, yeah. It's more
For the
flexibility.
smaller, especially for the smaller stores that
Yeah.
don't have their brands. So it is an interesting thing. So that's and we might have to get a handle on it. I'll have to do a little research for you. But we can take that going forward. Okay. So if you want to consider this to approve the Target sign and the
Go over
bollards.
the report, Claire?
Yeah, so what I say is that we received the application, that was the entire application described in the second one. The third one describes that you approved the reconstructed truck loading space and the press facade changes, and the signage, at the March 13th meeting. I'm gonna add additional signage, and the planning board discussed the red bollards at the March 13th meeting, that you questioned whether it was a sign, and, by email by Marjorie Riley, she's a senior building inspector, dated March 25th, if the bollards painted red would be considered a sign, however, painted gray would not be considered a sign. Whereas the applicant submitted updated front elevations, which indicate the bollards painted gray to match the background of the Target sign to the satisfaction of the planning board. And whereas the applicant submitted updated plans for the Target sign, the planning board finds that the design and size complies with the town code in the Bridgehampton Commons Master Sign Plan. And be it resolved, approved, subject to the note of the preparer on the front elevations. Note the dimensions of the gable on the final plans. And then the change of the color has already been done. So just
Did we say anything about the app pickup spaces that you had indicated 6 or 8 of them?
That would be with the pre-submission that we're still in the process of. This is
Okay.
the expedited that you
Okay.
considered being permitted to happen
Okay,
during
good.
the
So you'll do
application.
the sign, the bollards,
The loading dock.
and the loading.
Loading dock, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah, that
March
was
13th.
approved.
Yeah, this would be this.
Do we need to reference that at all in here?
I did. I said it in the third paragraph. What I omitted is that it's also approved the sign for CVS and Starbucks. So I will note that. Okay, for your consideration. And then we'll have this back on for the pre-submission report on April 24th.
Any other questions? Any questions? I have to have your name for the record.
Brian Kennedy, Fortelli Deegan Toronto, 100 Motor Parkway. Good to see you all.
Alex Holloman from
I
Bowler.
thought you looked familiar.
Yeah.
Deja vu.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Second by George, all in favor. Please, taking a vote, David, taking aye.
Aye. You're approved.
6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
I took one set of the plans, just
That's
for the
fine.
record,
I can
and then,
provide more if needed.
and then, we'll talk about getting plans signed. Yeah, no, I didn't want it, yeah, go do the
The
thing.
hangar Charlie, number 12.
He's so lonely back there. He was getting lonely back there, you know. All right.
David Wilcox comes up.
I'm gonna do that.
You and
I'm gonna be
Okay.
David Wilcox.
Good afternoon. So this is the Hangar Charlie. This is the Hangar Charlie. It's actually a subdivision application, a pre-app. We had discussed the car club as a part of a pre-submission conference, but now they're coming in for an 11-lot subdivision. Lots 1 through 10 are residential parcels, and lot 11 will contain the car club. Again, this is the former PDD, the Quag West Residential Tourism PDD that the town enacted of their own volition. This is the subdivision application. I've prepared a checklist. Specifically, we need slopes, water mains, fire hydrants, disposal systems, drainage, and then also I'm recommending that the application be deemed incomplete until we receive the environmental site audit as required by 332-48F8B, and then the other items.
This site was formerly a
Landfill?
landfill.
Yeah.
So the
No,
subdivision's in front of the.
Well, it was, I'm sorry, not a landfill, it was like an excavated
Sand pit.
sand pit. Yeah, sorry. I was thinking of the other lot down the street.
Well, there was a town landfill next door.
Okay,
So I am recommending that we deem the application incomplete as shown on the checklist, which you have copies of and I had provided to Wayne. Sorry, I didn't email them to you earlier. That issue.
And then we can,
Yes, I'd like to be heard. So I appreciate what the staff has done, but I don't think it follows the law. Number one, this is a pre-application. We're here to get a pre-application on the subdivision. It's premature to submit any seeker documents that's being requested. Any of the items that were pointed out in the site plan pre-submission will be provided when we submit the final site plan pre-submission. And what this goal was is, so if you recall, our clients were they were in contract to purchase this. And for whatever reason, I was not a party to that. The seller wouldn't allow them to submit any potential residential use on the property. So we couldn't, but you recall, every time you asked, I said, well, that we would possibly use the balance of the property for permitted uses, which was residential. And that's all we could say. We wanted to coordinate and do both at the same time, pre-submission subdivision and pre-submission site, but we couldn't. Our clients closed a month ago, so now we're able to do this. In the meantime, our applicant is fully working with the DEC on the remediation plans. It took 6 months to get a peep out of the DEC, but we finally got some movement towards that. So we're not ready to submit the site plan application at this time, but I don't think we could unless we coordinate it because, as staff points out, we don't want to segment seeker. We want to do both actions at the same time. So what we did is, and unless you want to waive this pre-submission, subdivision pre-submission. We are trying to just get a pre-application on this, which I would imagine you could get the comments and actually combine the comments for the site plan now that you know the full plan, which is what was identified in the site plan. What is the overall build out? What's your yield? So on and so forth. Among the, what we submitted was a yield map and a full cluster plan, as well as our preferred plan, which is the 11 lots, which, just to give you updates, one of the things we have been meeting with the town board, the park area in the front that we once proposed pickleball is now going to be a dog park, which is what the community wants. We are also proposing the lots as Teresa described. One of the comments was, what are you doing with the driveway that was going to the car club? Well, we anticipate that being a full subdivision spec road.
Just a road.
We always did. And that's why it was located in the place it was and in the design. So with the full cul-de-sac turnaround, as you saw on the site plan application, so that's all that was contemplated at that time. The only thing you really didn't see were the lots. In addition, we propose not just one, but 2 lots that would be available affordable housing. The goal here of the client is these lots would be related to people that are going to be members of the club. So this is the preferred plan. It's a subdivision pre-app. I think it's premature. I think I would fully expect that the board would put the same comments that Teresa put in here in your pre-submission report. We can't go through preliminary, when that is when seeker is addressed. Preliminary, not now at the pre-submission. That we would provide the environmental site audit, which would be with the combined preliminary application and site plan application, which is, by the way, no different than how you treated Lewis Road PRD. Site plan and preliminary applications all addressed, seeker addressed at that time, not at the pre-submission. So respectfully, I believe this application is complete. It shows topo, it shows the slopes. There are no slopes that exceed 20 or 30% except in the sand pit.
There are some actually
which is
here.
artificial.
There are some.
There are some here which are areas which were deposits made that are part of the remediation eventually that will have to occur. But we can certainly, if you think that is going to affect the yield, you know, it's not going to matter. We're doing only 11 lots instead of, I think it's 25 or 28. I forget the yield.
28.
28, yeah, 28. So if it's 27, because there's a couple areas of slope exceeding 20% or 30%, I don't think it's going to matter in the long run, but you can certainly provide that in your report. It's an analysis that will only be encompassed in the environmental assessment, that we're not building out a 27 or 28, lot subdivision in the middle of this industrial area. But that's what's proposed here. Water, public water all exists here. We can give you the distance to a fire hydrant. It doesn't really matter because there will be necessary hydrants put in and the pre-application, all the utilities. So I think you have everything you would need to provide any kind of analysis on a pre-submission subdivision at this point. So I would ask you just to move this to schedule a public hearing and get a report to us for whatever input you want us to have.
It's undergoing major review, right? So the next step is.
We don't have a choice. It's
right.
10 lots with a road.
Right.
That
So,
requires
here's
major
a-
review.
Here's a question though, right? Maybe this is Christine. The town code for this PDD says they have to provide an environmental site audit. Do they have to provide it now, or?
You can't ask me a question at the dais like that.
Okay.
This should have been something that I had time to digest and think about.
It doesn't say when, and I would say that, as the board did in the pre-submission on the site plan, that we need it with the final site plan application for seeker purposes.
But that was a different animal, though.
Yeah, but
That-
we're still
the
not
code,
at that
right?
point with seeker yet.
But
if that's the code, that's the code.
Right.
You know,
So
But the code doesn't say
right.
when.
Obviously, that's a discussion I'll have with Christine. But the fact is, we know that these are both coming in. right? And I don't see how we not take in the site plan application and segment the two.
Well, you're
right?
not
Because,
segmenting. You don't have a site plan application
but we
in
know
front
a
of you.
site plan's coming because it's shown on your
And you
plan.
know a subdivision, but you can't get past square one without a pre-submission.
Wait, when do you guys anticipate submitting the site?
Not until the pre-submission on the subdivision is finished.
Why?
When?
Why?
Why? Because that's a necessary item. I can't segment the two, subdivision and site plan. I need to do, and I can't do seeker on a subdivision until it's a preliminary application.
Right, but why can't you submit the site plan?
Because the site plan is going to depend on this road design and other factors that are related to the subdivision.
So then you wouldn't do it until you had a final on the subdivision?
No, we're going to do a pre-submission, get a pre-submission report on the subdivision, just like you did on the site plan. And based on the comments on both, we'll prepare a preliminary application and a fully engineered site plan, along with all our seeker documents and along with the environmental remediation plan. At that point, the board can do seeker. You're not segmenting, you got both actions in front of you at that time. But I can't get to that point without you reviewing a pre-submission on a subdivision application.
So in order, the work product that you're looking for is a staff report on the pre-submission, right?
Planning board's pre-application report on the
Right,
subdivision.
so in order to produce that, there would need to be an extension anyway, because today's the action.
No, he's looking for us to
He wants to deem it
and
complete
set
so
the
that we can
hearing.
schedule a public hearing, but, there's some basic information that's missing, the hydrants, the existing things of that nature. But then, I spoke with Claire, I spoke with Janice, and they felt that the site plan was needed in order to ensure that we're not segmenting the project.
Site plan's right there.
But you want to do the preliminary and the site plan together. It's sort of, these checklist items are more relevant for the preliminary submission, I think. Like the hydrants.
Well, I mean, this has to be referred to the fire marshal, and they're gonna say
You don't-
where,
you just did a whole report on something, you don't make referrals on pre-applications. You do that on the preliminary. So I would just ask, how many subdivisions have you reviewed? Major subdivisions with preliminary and final? The point is you would know that you don't do the referrals at this stage. You're gonna do referrals on a preliminary application.
No, we do referrals at pre-app stage.
Well, and also
to
we
everybody.
would have a
both.
pre-submission report
Okay,
from the staff
we're-
person. So
it's a little
I don't feel
confusing, right?
comfortable
Because
moving
we're
forward
calling
on
it a
this.
pre-submission, but we have pre-submission for site plan, and this is a pre-app. In this particular instance, because it's more than a 10-lot subdivision, it's a 3-step process for the subdivision. It's pre-app, preliminary, and final. However, we know that we have this big site plan coming in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on Lewis Road and NRP Group, we had both to concurrent, right? The applications for site plan and subdivision run concurrent.
With
Yes.
there was a pre-app though. There was a pre-app.
We adopted a pre-app and a pre-submission conference report for both projects, I think.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, but you
here's-
didn't have that opportunity here because we didn't have the subdivision, like I explained, we
Yeah,
couldn't
you-
do
can
it.
I
I want to get them together now.
Yeah, okay, so let's
A little
find the
suggestion.
right.
A little suggestion. I
Yes.
think we can get there. How about this? We want the slopes and we want the fire hydrant. Pretty easy for you to get that information by the time the hearing happens, right? Can you do that?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
There you go. Let's just do
What
that.
about the
Why don't we deem it
environmental-
complete?
hearing
We'll
and then-
schedule a public hearing
Why don't we-
subject to getting them in.
What about the environmental site audit?
Well, that's interesting. It is, we've never done this before. This is a situation where we have a code that says we should do this. And you're right, you don't want to go too far down the road without knowing this is going to happen at the point.
Particularly this property.
Right,
which was,
but it is a
sandpit.
pre-app stage, but we require basic information. And some of that is the slope analysis, which I thought was important.
Right,
And the fire
hydrants.
hydrant. I mean, that's important. We have to do referrals. So if they can, you can provide that before the hearing, and we could schedule the hearing for May, whatever the May
So
is,
maybe,
8th. That gives him 6 weeks to do that,
and
and
if it's not there, we just hold a hearing.
yeah.
So you would present that as part of the public hearing.
Right, or submit it to us, and then we
Beforehand.
have it, and then we could do that as part of our referrals.
Is that good?
Okay.
The fire marshal, fire district is gonna wanna know the fire hydrants, and we want to know the slopes.
So,
We don't need to adopt a resolution deeming the application complete, we just would schedule the presentation.
Complete subject to, I would say subject to, like a nice little finding that says the applicant has agreed to submit that information prior.
Yep.
Slopes
So you
and
want-
fire
You
hydrants.
just want slopes, hydrants.
Yep, I'll
So
amend the,
you're-
I'll
when
amend the
you say
checklist.
slopes, we're looking for
Analysis.
slopes that
Analysis.
exceed 20%,
Correct.
Yes.
And the Wayne's Point.
even
I
though
know-
they're artificial.
I know that property pretty well too.
Doesn't say that in the
There's
I
a
know
lot
that,
of
I know.
Literally,
The
built stuff
they're
dumb.
artificial.
Show,
Like mounds.
Okay, so I'll amend the checklist and make the public hearing subject to receiving those documents, and the public hearing will be tentatively scheduled for May 8th, provided we get those documents.
Well,
If
not
not, then-
tentatively.
It's scheduled.
And if,
It'll
it will
happen
be
if you-
scheduled, but if we don't get the documents, we'll have to adjourn it.
At the time of the hearing, if I show up and for some reason the surveyor couldn't get you that information, then you're.
Never happens.
we're saying the
I
same
know.
thing, so
We don't
that's.
close it.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, okay? I'll amend the resolution and the checklist as well.
So what's our action then?
So you're going to schedule,
It's
subject to,
Subject to those.
and then schedule the hearing for May 8th.
okay, so, motion to
Deem the
deem the
application
application complete,
Sub-
subject to
submission of the revised
submission-
maps
submission of the revised maps
and scheduling the public hearing for May 8th.
and scheduling the public hearing for May 8th.
But the hearing's going to
Motion
happen.
by Dennis, second by someone. David, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thanks.
Bye, thanks.
Well done, Claire. Bravo.
The problem solver.
But you see, I'm a middle child, this is what happens. I do have one applicant on, Zoom for number 16.
Okay.
I think it's David Kenny.
Homeland Towers, Flanders?
Thank you so much.
Whose number is it?
60.
Oh, I'm gonna do number 16
Oh,
because we
yeah.
have one more applicant waiting, and then we can go in order from that point if you want, or we can, 16 Homeland Towers?
David Kenny.
Are they on Zoom? I guess.
They're on Zoom. In short, the application does have a number of items that are incomplete. I provided the applicant a copy of it. This is an interesting situation. Oh, David, hi. How are you? This is a junkyard. Oh, junkyard. That's what we give permits out for junkyards. Yeah. So there's going to be, I think, 2 actions with this application. So just in short, you had a pre-submission report back in 2023 for the application for a cell tower on the property, about 150 feet, and that is the application before you now. There's 3 alternatives that they presented to you. I reviewed the application. It is incomplete. However, at the same time, they submitted an application to the Pine Barrens because it's located in the corporation area, and therefore it's development action pursuant to them. So they have received an application. They have coordinated SECR with you. They are asking whether you'd want lead agency or not in the application. That could be. If you want to lead agency, you could. I think at the same time, though, you want to get your issues to them. Obviously, we have the short time period. I just received this.
But we had all the same issues. We're gonna have the same issues that we had when we reviewed it the first time.
Right.
The height, the location,
Mhm.
the fall zone,
Mhm.
all of that
Mhm.
remains the same.
Mhm.
We're not in favor of this.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I would say let the Pine Barrens get in the core.
Okay.
The Pine Barrens Commission, if they see this site
Mhm.
and it's in the core, they're going to have something to say
Mhm.
in their review.
Okay.
I mean, I would personally.
Any action, I mean, this is pre-existing, non-conforming, right?
Pre-existing non-conforming. It's a
Yeah.
CR
Look at this.
60
This is
zoning
the
district.
junkyard, right, so
Mhm.
to do any action, they'd really have to clear a lot of this up.
No, they're proposing it, and I do have the plan.
They
Oh,
have a
I'm sorry, the
pretty
plan is
small
there. It's in the
area
corner,
on the road.
Right,
closer
but it's
to the
not
roadway.
compliant with
But if they're doing a
all
site
zoning.
plan, the board has the right to look at the entire site.
Right, yeah.
The board, I'm sorry, what board? The
This
planning
board
board.
here.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's up in the, right by the road, actually, and it doesn't comply with the fall zone.
Right, so, and, you know, if it's in Pine Barrens core and there's an action that it's not, you know, the pre-existing non-conforming can say, you've gotta clean this up.
You don't even need that to say you gotta clean it up,
They
but
could do
I
that.
would suggest letting them, because it's in the court,
Oh,
do be lead agent, and then we'll take it from there.
So we're gonna deem it incomplete as the action.
That was one action. The
And we're
other
going to
action we
have the
can,
Pine Barrens do the lead agency.
you could say that you do not want lead agency, that you feel that they would be more proper.
Right.
I would say that in the resolution.
It's unlisted.
It is an unlisted action. What I would say is that you want to make sure that they have all the information related to your issues, right? They're going to focus on the Pine Barrens issues of the environment and the aquifer, but you'd want to hear your issues, which is if it conforms to zoning or not, or the master plan, or the visual impacts, those kinds of
It's gonna be an
things.
involved agency, though.
Yes, but once they have this is your opportunity to make comments. So I'm going to further ask that we put this on to send a report to them,
Great.
which would be taking your pre-submission reports and saying these are the environmental issues
Perfect.
that you see.
Perfect.
And I'll prepare that for the town for their consideration. David, this is David Kenny. Do you want to identify yourself?
Yes.
Hi, I'm David Kenny, attorney with Snyder & Snyder, representing the applicants Homeland Towers and Verizon Wireless.
Okay, good. Any comments on this?
No, just again, what was discussed is we did hear the comments when it was presented in 2023. As you know, with these types of facilities, it's really hard to find a location that can actually fill in a gap in service. There is a major gap in service along Flanders Road, so this facility is needed to fill in that gap in service. We have presented alternative designs. I think the one that seems to have the most preference is the internal antennas on a flagpole design, so that has been presented. And I understand the comments regarding proximity to road and fall zone. There are other similar structures that are located along roadways in close proximity. In fact, you see a lot of these sites are located very close to roadways, sometimes in rights of way. But I have heard the comments. We look forward to receiving more comments from the board in the full staff reports, and we'll do our best to respond to each of the comments as we receive them.
Okay. And just so you know, that I just want to run off the items that we need for the completeness portion of it. The petition needs to be prepared for the special exception. The setbacks to the pole should be shown on the site plans to the nearest residences. There should be variances for a number of uses, including setbacks for the zoning board of appeals. So even if SECR was done, we couldn't deem this incomplete. The ZBA would have to act. Note, and then some notations related to the property owner, storage area, parking areas, fire hydrant, lighting, grading, contours on the plan. So
And our wireless master plan also calls for a plan as to where the nearest next poles are, so to show need.
They did provide, and they do, but I have been reviewing. If you can see on my stickies, they have provided a lot of that information. So they did have a pretty good information, like knowing our code, responding to our code, but there's some things that we just need to button up in terms of the information. So it's a start. So
can I
It's fair. I just had one question regarding the incompleteness for the petition. I know Rob had filed a petition, and we just submitted a letter with, there was an incorrect section block and lot, so we submitted a corrected petition.
Okay.
Are you saying that there's deficiencies within the petition, or you just didn't get the petition?
I got a petition, but it wasn't related to the special exception standards being signed. So we can review that, you know.
Yeah, I
the
just want to make
specifics
sure
on
you
that.
physically received something. It's more about what was in the petition.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Rob did sign a petition with the notary. It just wasn't the special exception criteria that I saw. But it was a biggie document. I could have missed it. So we'll talk about that. Okay? Great. Thanks. So 2 actions. One would be to deem the application incomplete, and the second one would be to state you do not wish to be lead agency for the application.
You want a separate resolution?
Please, yes.
I'll move to deem incomplete
Motion by Dennis to move it, deem the application incomplete, second by Kate, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. The second is to refer to the Pine Barrens Commission for them to take lead agency. So we relinquish ours by Tom, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
And it could be, I don't know, would go in order, I guess.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Safety is fun.
Yes. So we'll go for designation of historic landmark.
Yeah, the Rainer Fish House. is
Yeah, that's the
number 9.
easy one. Not that they're hard, but
It's going to a fish conference tomorrow, is that it?
yes. So do you want me to just go through? Did you want to pull this up for Beaver Dam Road? Do you want to? You received copies of the information. Do you need copies of the? Okay. And pass this down.
This is reading these reports.
I did, yeah.
They are so
They're
interesting.
interesting,
Yeah, I thought they were great. I didn't print all the reports out. I just printed the landmarks comments on these, and this is actually the landmarks comments, which would be helpful too, I think. Those. So this,
Two things.
yeah, but just we thought the resolution would be good on that one. So this is for.
That's one set.
And then this is,
Everything's got muddled. I don't even have.
yeah, I have extra copies.
One more document.
So this is the Rainer Fish House. This was recommended, it is owned by the town of Southampton. CPF is in charge of it, and is recommended for a landmark designation. It's possesses special character and embodies as distinguishing characteristic of the architectural type, and it's a unique location. So those were the standards that were being met.
Where is it? Is it on the canal?
It's on Beaver Dam Creek
Beaver Dam.
It was Hampton.
in West Hampton.
The report is very good, and I think you shared it, and it was very interesting. And I did have one question, you may have just answered it when you said CPF owns it, but looks like it's gonna need a lot of work.
They're working on it.
And that's covered through CPF funding or
Yes.
something? Okay.
It is, and it is funny because it's something I'm involved in it also. It's because they're like, okay, well, let's make it FEMA compliant. I'm like, well, no, you actually have to have access to the water. That's the whole point of it.
You can jump from a diving board.
That's what you have to do to make that FEMA compliant.
I know, oh my goodness, that would be impossible. So you're supportive of it. There's some standard language that Dave has with these projects where he just takes the description, puts it in there, and says that you have reviewed this and that you fully support the designation. Does that sound reasonable?
It sounds very reasonable.
Okay, great.
Motion by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Moving on to number 10, the Diamond Dairy Barn and Studio.
What's the address on that, Claire?
That is 18 Flying Point Road. It's behind the one that was done with the subdivision. If you recall that.
Oh, yes, I know.
I'm going to give you the landmarks, the landmarks report on this one. I think that's the best one. It's behind it.
Right off the Flying Point Road.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's behind. Oh, that's a new house.
The two houses was,
With the subdivision.
yeah, that was the
And they
original
moved
Diamond
one of the
farmhouse.
houses over.
Like a carriage house.
That was the Diamond Farmhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, somewhere.
So
I don't know.
So if you zoom in, I think the barn in the back,
This thing, okay.
yeah,
That
that barn in the back has been, first of all, it's an old barn structure, right? And it was a dairy barn. But then was turned into a studio, which was like a writing studio or an art studio and a residence. And historically, a number of people who are artists in the area lived there, and they list the people: Lynn Hefner Ferrante, Ron Bruckner, Hal Buckner, and then Dorothy Lichtenstein is also associated with it. So that is the historic personages, and then of course the building itself, it being an old barn that was retrofitted. So that is why Landmarks is recommending it to be designated as a historic.
Well, I think we fully
Landmark.
support
Yep.
landmark and preservation of the history.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's great.
yeah. So, motion by
Yeah.
Kate,
Perfect.
second by Tom, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Prena? You here?
Yes. This actually, number 11, you're referring to the seminars?
Is this off the agenda?
Yeah, I don't think Carl stuck around. I just checked with Peter before. It was deemed incomplete at the last meeting, and it still remains incomplete.
So, shall we take it off?
Yeah.
11 is off the agenda, we've done 12. How about David Goodman?
No. Goodman I have, yes.
Anthony, what happened to Brian on Round Widow?
I told him he had to go somewhere that we're deeming it incomplete, so, yep.
Number 13, David Goodman.
Yeah, this is a pre-application for a subdivision at 181 Bridgehampton Sag Harbor Turnpike. The board saw this in July. It was deemed incomplete, and the applicant resubmitted their map for their proposed two-lot subdivision, along with a density incentive or a PRD map as well. Laura Wilshire is the applicant's agent. She was here earlier. She said she had to go to ARB meetings. No, we're
It's
this
just
is
completeness.
it's on to deem it complete so we can set the hearing for April.
Okay.
So if you want, I could remind you some of the things and talk about what's been resubmitted, or we could schedule. The applicant resubmitted the density incentive, or what we're calling like a PRD or cluster plan. It is complete now, but just to remind the board, this is about a 1.34 acre lot in R20 zoning. They submitted their initial plan to remove the existing improvements, which is CO'd for a 2-family home, and it's a historic home. It was built in 1870. So their yield plan would be to demolish that and create 2 lots. There's this area in the back that historically was a separate lot, but they became merged. And we looked at it a little closer. There's a density incentive provision in the code. This would propose that they keep all of the existing improvements, the historical structure, for affordable purposes as lot 1, and then they created 5 strips going to the 2 lots in the rear, the proposed lots in the rear.
So that becomes a 3-lot subdivision.
It becomes a 3-lot subdivision.
Density incentive.
A density
Yeah,
incentive, yeah.
for the purposes of creating this as an affordable house and keeping it historic. So when we saw that, we said, oh, can we do something more interesting here? And the benefit of this is it's so close to town too. It's right there, and hopefully we can keep the structure and use it.
What's the condition?
Go ahead.
What's the condition of the structure?
It's livable. The people are living in it currently. It's a 2-family, but we don't know how big the 2 units are in the property. See, the housing
authority.
The housing authority is interested, which would be great. Yes. So, yep.
What groundwater zone is it?
It is in groundwater zone 5, and that is the issue. That with this, the town could give the credit to allow this to go forward?
How many credits would they need to?
That's a
Because-
great question.
Answering all the
That is a great question. I'm asking the applicant to ask the health department what we're talking about at the end of the day. Because in my mind, my eye, the second lot is its own lots.
Can we just get that up on
These are,
Maybe the historical
Just the
map?
historical map,
oh, the
sorry.
historical map, gotcha.
There it is.
No, hold on.
This one. So the health department, in my eye, the health department will recognize this as two lots.
two lots?
Right. And that when with this third credit, they would increase it to be three. So I just want to make sure the health department thinks that way.
Yeah.
Which I think is how they do it. But in the worst case scenario, it could be that they need 1.5 credits, and if that's the case, then they might have to get their own half credit somehow. We'll cross that. We're gonna.
Mention that in the report.
We're definitely gonna mention the
Yeah,
report. We've been
about it.
talking to the applicant about it to get that answer from the health department. With the health department is agreeable to it, but what will they require? Because if they look at it and they say, oh no, you only have the lot area, then we're stuck with not getting the density, the density that we want to.
Claire, just, and I know,
Yeah.
unmerging, my question, I guess, is, lots have been merged,
Mm-hmm.
and then I guess somebody changes their mind or whatever
Mm-hmm.
happens, and it's unmerged.
You have to subdivide
What is
it.
so I guess in this case, like the benefits would outweigh, well, let's just keep it as one lot,
Well, in
just
our
looking
case,
for the.
it conforms to zoning. We can do this. This is R
And
20.
there's no restriction on unmerging the lot.
There's no.
There's
It's
no
not.
covenant or-
The unmerged. There's no issue of merging here because it's not. It's not non-conforming to do the 3 lots. It would be conforming, except for you'd need some relief
We get a lot
on
of
setbacks with the things like that.
Right. We don't
ZBA
use
does
a lot.
those,
It's-
but those are in the non-conforming.
It's for the purposes of the health department
Yeah.
that you need the credit.
Right.
Yeah, not in
So
not in
there's
the eye of
nothing-
our zoning. Yeah,
Okay, no
Yeah.
restriction against doing this.
right, exactly. Right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, we just wanted to see if we could do something more inventive with historic and doing affordable near a hamlet.
That
which
is
great,
good. That's
which
a
would be
good-
great.
Good benefit.
Yeah.
right.
So, hopefully it works rather than the typical just knock
So
it
our
down.
action is to.
To deem it complete and set the hearing for April 24th, I believe we posted it. right?
How many,
No, May
how many, May?
May.
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry,
excuse me.
April 20.
April.
April 24th. Yep.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm looking at- I'll move it.
What, April?
April 24th.
April,
This room.
April 24th. Okay, so motion to deem it complete and schedule a public hearing for April 24th by Dennis, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Let's get that basket down. Murphy's gonna clean us out.
Seth here?
Yeah.
Order
That's
the-
right here.
I wanna take it, but no pressure on you whatsoever.
So, I have before you bay water, seawater, well water. This is 3 lots. I have a lot line modification, 2 lot line modifications. We're going to deem it incomplete today. Yes, I got a survey from '73 that was colored in. So I was supposed to get a 3-panel survey, which hasn't come in yet. So, just to give you a briefing, though, quickly, this is 3 properties in Noyak. The idea is to merge the 2 that are on the upper cove there. And in doing so, the right-hand flag would then be merged into the property you see highlighted in red. That's the idea.
It's been around for a while. right?
That one's been around for a while. Yeah.
Like 10 years ago.
Possible.
Yeah, what was the date? I don't have the date. It was 1976. It was a minor subdivision, Schwarzenegger. At any rate, I will need some better information, so incomplete.
Incomplete?
Incomplete, motion to deem this incomplete by Kate, second by David, all in favor, aye, opposed, abstentions. Brown Buddha, 15.
15, yep. So this is 1533 County Route 39 in Tuckahoe. We've looked at this before. This is Brown Buddha. This is it's an existing site plan. We did a site plan not so many years ago. This is built out the way it was supposed to. It's really for a special exception application to change the use from the pool business that's there to a retail cannabis. A couple things. We're going to deem the application incomplete today. Number one, we're still waiting on the engineer's review. Number two, I dispersed the traffic study to the board, and we're going to have their traffic engineer discuss this with us in a little detail, only because this building is over 4,000 square feet, so it doesn't meet the type 2 action, and this is an unlisted action under SECRA, so we have to go through the environmental process as well. So I advised Brian Lacazio that we still got to work out some of these things. Well, let's get the engineer's review, and I'll let him know what date in April to come with his traffic engineer, because I think the board might have some questions about some of the numbers, and then we'll take it from there. So we'll deem it incomplete at this point.
Okay. Motion by Kate. Second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Hey, Jackie, let me just, I have one more complete.
No.
1052. I'm still working with I met with the applicant on this.
19.
Oh, yeah, sorry, number 19,
1052.
1052. I've sat down and met with the applicant on this one. If everyone remembers, this is that covenant amendment and then subdivision.
Oh, yes.
I gave him some information about some information that we should have so we could, proceed and see if he wants to continue down this road. It just, there's a lot of slopes in there. There's a lot of clearing in there. The driveway, when this was done, actually has an easement over this lot because the slopes are so bad in there. So I said, get us more information before we could make a decision on the pre-app report. So we're doing an extension of the action deadline until April, what's the second meeting? April 24th, 2025.
Okay, so we're deeming this incomplete.
No, actually it's an extension of the action deadline until April 24th.
Extension of the action deadline to April 24th. Motion?
Motion.
By George, second by Tom. All in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. We'll go back to Brenna.
No. They not be referral, they've asked us to be pulled.
2173 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton.
This is number 17, 2173 Montauk Highway.
This is for a site plan application for a change of use from an existing residence to an office. I have it pulled up here, but it's that it's one of the sites that also fronts Hildreth Lane in Bridgehampton, one of these through sites. It is incomplete, but just to call out some items, they want to change it to an office for Martin Architects. It's a 16,500 square foot lot in the HC zoning district, and it's in that Bull's Head Main Street Historic Overlay District, I think it's called. But there's, I didn't pass out the resolution. I did fill out a review form. There's quite a few items that are going to be required in order to get it in front of you and deem it complete. So it's incomplete today.
They have an active HAH there too.
I'm sorry?
They have Bull's Head has an active HAH and internal restrictions, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started reviewing it and looking at it. They've been in front of the landmarks, our historic landmarks before, because they within the last 2 years they've done some major renovations. I don't know if you recall seeing it, but it's they completely changed the look of the existing house. Mm-hmm. And they did everything as a resident, so they've done a lot of improvements already, and I think they've gone before landmarks at least once, if not twice, but never as part of the Bull's Head overlay district.
And they're kind of surrounded by commercial properties.
They are.
At this point.
The site immediately to the west was in for change of use. I think it was in 08 or 20, maybe 2013. It's the same thing. So there's really no more residential uses left on this leg. There's residential behind them, but not here. Oh, well, that's helpful. It's hard to see because the property slopes
It's in
up.
traffic.
The property slopes up, but it's this black building. They did a lot of finishes. They did a lot of what they're calling native plantings.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better if we look at it from Hildreth,
Side.
actually. Yeah. Because you can
From
really see
Hildreth,
into
yeah.
the road. Yeah. Anyway, this is the building, the rear of the building. The front of the building is, I think, a little bit more darker tones. But they've done a lot of improvements. They've done a lot of environmental considerations with I think the structure of the building, but they have solar all across the flat portion of the roof, and a couple other things. They've kept all the existing trees, and they introduced a lot of what they're calling native plantings. I haven't verified that, but
That's nice.
yeah.
So
That's interesting.
we don't have to change the designation, do we?
You'd be changing the use and then allowing parking associated with that use. So that would be it's a site plan application. You want to deem it complete. You want to have some public input. Obviously, it's changing from
Right.
a house to a commercial use.
Mm-hmm.
So the neighbors across the street might be interested.
Right.
Possible. So that'd be deemed incomplete.
Incomplete. We're waiting on some more information, and then when it's ready, we'll bring it back.
Okay. Motion to deem this incomplete
Motion.
by George, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Claire, you have Stephen Perone.
Yes, that's a 3-lot subdivision, Squires and Holden. I guess Bob Smith came in to do a reapproval last year, and then they're still stuck with the health department, so he's asking for 6-month extension till September 2025. I thought he would be here, but he didn't end up showing up. I do have copies of the site. It's a 3-lot subdivision in the Shinnecock Hills, or Hampton Bays, excuse me.
This is number 18?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So.
Is that the one on the corner?
That's the one on the corner of South Valley Road and Canoe Place Road, yes. So because of the health department's only in a month, so 6 months for the extension.
To 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Extension for 6 months on Stephen Perone by Kate, second by David, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then I do have Sabana Cottage, that is an extension of the site plan approval for 2 years.
Extension for 2 years. Motion by Kate, second by David, all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
Sign the plans.
I do.
Oh, St. Mary's didn't have it, right? It was off the agenda? St. Mary's?
No, they had everything that got signed.
Is that what I
That's what you
signed?
signed earlier.
Acknowledging 21 was signed for St. Mary's. No more walk-ons, that's it?
That's it.
Motion to adjourn by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent. We are adjourned until 6 o'clock.
Okay.